Hi everyone, we hope you're doing well. We're hanging in there though honestly, we haven't been getting much sleep lately. Today, we want to answer a question we get a lot: how do we publish our audiobooks? First, we post most audiobooks on Patreon as paid content. They stay paid for a few months. After that, they become free to listen to on Patreon forever. A few weeks later, we post them on other places like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, X. Lately, things have been a bit slow in terms of new members. So we'd love your help. Please share our site with your friends or in places like Facebook groups, Twitter, X, Discord, Reddit, or novel forums. Even one share can really help us grow. Thanks so much for your support. The Voidcraft is a perfect snub fighter, in essence. It's at this point that Vice interjects, hearing the mostly unfamiliar term. Snub fighter? Johnson is the one to explain. Snub fighter is a term used to describe a small starfighter with the capability to operate in and out of the atmosphere. These small ships are usually dependent on other larger ships. They are sometimes referred to as a parasite craft, yet pack just enough firepower to make their presence known. They stand because they're also cheap, easily buildable, and reliable. Am I missing anything so far, Ein? You just about sum it up correctly, Johnson. More cookies for you, I guess? I reply with a wave of my hand. My head is still gazing down at the displays on the Viper. That said, if there's one thing I have to add, then it's the fact that this thing does not have FTL capability, nor does it have a Jeller field to counteract a warp storm. Then again, I don't think any ship this size has them. Going back on my report to Mago's head Aizen, I continue to list the Viper's potential. This snub fighter is fast, like very fast. 3 big engines, multiple RCS thrusters. In the atmosphere, it can easily reach escape velocity and can reach a top acceleration of 9g. However, most of the time, the cogitator limits the acceleration to 7g for fear of pilot blackout. The Viper Mark 7 can rotate 180 degrees vertically in 0.25 seconds, and I think any pilot worth their salt will fall in love with it. It is of stall design and it cannot be launched from a standstill but needs a short runway. To power everything, it uses nuclear fusion. As for armament, it is quite heavily armed for something of its size. The Viper is fitted with 3 mass accelerator cannons, a missile bay, and an additional 2 external weapon hardpoints. The cannons are, apparently, the main weapon of the Viper, capable of firing 20 rounds per second. Useful for shredding light and even buckling medium to heavy armor if used properly. Honestly, Mago's head Aizen, the more I explore, the better it gets. I can't see why we shouldn't start reverse engineering the Viper for the novice imperialists. The Mago's nods. It's very tempting, yes. While not a revered STC, we have multiple specimens, intact and wrecked alike, to build ourselves a blueprint of our own. I can see the Viper filling the gaps that the Fury Interceptor can't, owing to its size, logistics, and cost. If anything, a swarm of Vipers can help clear the way for the Furies and Starhawks to strike an enemy flotilla. Its protection will be its number and agility, while the bulk of the firepower will be provided by other Voidcraft. A fascinating prospect. It is. Mama comes to interject, smiling at us. But it will be an endeavor for when we're back at the Kazver? The Magos nods in agreement. Indeed. Mama then says. The door is jammed, it's sealed off from the other side by the look of it. So we will have to wait for another hole to be cut, quite unfortunately so. I blanch. Again? These doors are thick as well, even the laser drill will have to take some time. Mama shrugs while Mago's head Aizen sighs in visible annoyance. Mama steps forward to the Viper's side, looking at what I am doing with obvious interest while handing me a canteen. And I thought I have seen everything my daughter has to offer. What, you're gonna be my pilot soon, dear Ein? I pop open the canteen, smelling the aromatic scent of the liquid inside. Is this Rykov, Mama? Oh, and this is but a skill I picked up in my free time, just in case I need it. I am nowhere near adept in piloting vehicles. Yes, Ein, it's Rykov. I figured you would like to have some. Mama smiles, taking pride in seeing my preparedness. One can't be too careful, after all. Saying my thanks to Mama, I down a hearty gulp of Rykov, ignoring the traumatized look on Vice's face or the wry grins on the rest of 3rd Platoon. I spare my unit a side glance as if to complain. Hey, I am not that bad under Rykov's influence for you to look at me like I'm a hot potato. However, when I purr contently after downing Mama's Rykov, I can feel a light bulb going off above my head as the caffeine kicks in. I look at Mama. Oh, Mama. I think I know just the thing to keep the ball rolling. I grin as I look down on the instrument panel of the Viper Mark 7. Vice, who is standing by the rest of the platoon, feels a bad premonition creeping up when she sees my smirk. Giving her Rykov is the worst idea ever. Chapter 17, Anybody home? A burst of kinetic projectiles punches many holes through the thick blast door. After wasting nearly all the ammo on a usable colonial raptor, the door finally gave way to sheer metal fatigue and armor degradation. The commotion kicks up a large cloud of dust in the corridors of the Battlestar that lingers even after the raptor has stopped firing. Moments later, figures wade through the yet-to-dissipate smoke clouds, their flashlights shed some light on the path ahead. I am one of the first to step through the dusty obstruction. My shield is poised to greet whatever surprise may lie ahead. Right behind me is the rest of 3rd Platoon and members of the Joint Task Force, which are the Sisters of Battle and Salamander Space Marines. Overall, the composition doesn't have much change, if any. Now that the blast door is a no factor, we are to be one of the vanguards that explore the paths forward. Ideally, we are to determine the locations of the Pegasus Bridge and reactor room. Looking around, we're inside one of the bays and corridors that form up the strut that connects the flight pod we were in with the rest of the Battlestar. In the Battlers Star Galactica series, this is probably one of the bays they use to service Vipers. Unfortunately, the site lacks the luster it used to have, scarred with battle damages and marred by years of disuse. That said, there are some new holes on the metal walls directly opposite us, formed by my wanton use of a Raptor's Max. Now those are new, and I can't help but idly think that Pegasus would have made a protest about me shooting inside her if she could. Hey! How uncouth of you. But anyway, moving on. Ironically, the Vipers that are in the bay are in a much worse state than the ones we found outside. Some have their insides gouged out, while others are burned into husks. What the hell happened to you all? Did someone sabotage these ones or something? Most of the damages I see are internal, with only some sporting bullet holes from stray shots. I can't say for sure though, as the passage of time clearly isn't kind to whoever or whatever is in this particular bay. I shrug before taking my position slightly forward from the rest, tucking behind a collapsed pile of crates. I look down at a scanner, tucked behind my shield and next to a set of energy packs, to check the environmental data. Air is breathable, no toxic containment. However, be careful when you approach the Vipers. Those things run on nuclear fusion and the scanner shows a spike when you're near them. Not to the point of harmful, but enough to stay wary anyway. Then it's a good thing we all got our masks on. Sergeant Johnson steps up near me before turning around and scans the rest of the service bay. Anything on the motion sensor? I shake my head. Negative. Vice, who is sticking with me as my battle buddy, also says a negative. Sensor skull returns nothing on the horizon, at least for now. Johnson nods. If only shits stay as chill and silent as this room is. The sergeant looks at the human husks dotted around the bay. But knowing us Froggers' luck, we may as well see some live clankers by the end of the day. I shrug with a lazy smile behind my rebreather. At least we all know that they're pitifully underprotected against our lasers. One good hit to their torso then. Poof, clankers go clanking. Vice deadpans. Is that supposed to be an attempt at a funny pun? I raise my head as if basking in the praise. Sometimes, my ingenuity frightens even myself. Vice groans. Why did my lady think giving you recough was a great idea? Because Aizen is more unconventionally effective when given recough in an environment with external pressure. Comes the voice of Mama, who has donned her helmet, much like the rest of the sisters and salamanders. I presume Sergeant Johnson can attest to that quite well. Johnson nods, chuckling. It's as you've said, my lady. Pardon my crude words, but when shit hits the fan, give Aizen her recough and she will wipe away all your worries. You better pick up the skill to know when and where to give Aizen her dose, rookie. Vice blinks her eyes rapidly at Johnson for the suggestion. Is that supposed to be a joke, sir? Johnson replies, speaking facts. No, it's a freaking tactic, rookie. Chapter Master Tushan laughs lightly when he sees Vice slump in defeat due to my ridiculousness. As amusing as it is to see your banter, it appears we all are ready to proceed, isn't that right? There's a few nods here and there before Johnson says. Alright, boys and girls, forward. With any luck, we'll be smashing some chrome soon enough. With Johnson's encouraging words as the cue, I move out of my cover, with Vice and the rest of 3rd Platoon trailing near me. We hug the walls, with las rifles, or las pistol in my case, pointing front, up, and down. 3rd Platoon scans for any threat directly ahead of the boarding party, while the Sisters of Battle breach and clear the occasional room behind us. Due to their sizes, the Salamander Space Marines pick up the unenviable task of shoring up our rear flank. Although we have fresh units guarding our initial insertion point and preventing potential flankers, one can't be too careful exploring the unknown. What if our reserves fail to notice or contain the threat, leaving it lashing at our unsuspecting backs? That is not something the boarding party wants to happen, so the Salamanders take to protecting our rear very seriously. If anything can break past them to hit the Sisters of Battle or even use 3rd Platoon, then Holy Emperor, we're so fucked. Stray thoughts aside, Other than the occasional human husks in the hallways and quarters, we failed to come across anything meaningful. It takes around half an hour before we finally cross over to the main hull of the Pegasus. Surprisingly, it's not sealed at all and we make it deeper into the Battlestar without much fanfare. After reporting to the rear units that it's safe to push forward and set up another line of defense, the boarding party resumes our exploration. So, which path should we take? I ask, coming across a fork in the road. Mama suggests. Trust your gut and pick one, Ein. The other path can be explored by the next team. I nod, before stepping forward. Then, far left it is. Once more, we set out into the dark belly of the Pegasus. Seriously, is that how you treat a lady? Bar some soft banter, the boarding party proceeds with relative silence. A semi-permanent fixture is the sounds of our boots, both soft and metallic, kicking against the floor and doorways. How do we even get into those locked rooms, you may ask? Our servo skull can be quite handy. Or, in the case that a door is rightfully sealed or jammed, Chief Librarian Velkina straight up punches and rips open the door. Apparently, having Space Marines means you don't need to worry about lubricating your doorway. Neat. Still, the deeper we go, the easier it is for us to see that something is not quite right. Other than utter desolation and human corpses, anyone else manages to glean something of note? Savary asks after walking out of the ruined cantina. A few members of the boarding party shake their heads. I go on to say. None so far, sistered Savary. That, in itself, is a cause for caution. Tushan agrees. Indeed. We saw clankers back in the hangars alongside human husks. Yet, so far, we only see the human parts. Vice chimes in. We come across signs of combat, a great many of them, so where are the clankers? Surely the crew of the Pegasus managed to kill some of them. Johnson adds. What if the clankers blitz the life support on the void ship? Maybe they did it so fast that the crew couldn't manage to defeat even one clanker? It is a possibility. I nod, still maintaining my caution as we make our way forward. But then that begs the question. Where are the clankers? Mama hums before asking. Where do they need to go to disable life support? I reply. If they couldn't disable it remotely, the clankers must seize the bridge or the void ship's engineering room. Mama then turns to Savary. Contact the rear line, and tell them to be on the lookout for potential ambush by engineering. At once, Kanona's superior. Savary obliges. The conversation then dies down as once again, there's little to be said about the state of the Battlestar. Pegasus must have been glorious, for a time, but then humanity decided to be stupid and ruined what could have been a great defender of mankind. Oh. I think this is the first time someone actually said something nice about me. I stop suddenly, pressing myself against the left side of the corridor and crouching down in the blink of an eye. Vice, demonstrating her strange adaptability, immediately perches right behind me. Her las rifle is holding slightly over my head, aiming down the well-lit corridor, thanks to our flashlights. Without hesitation, the rest of 3rd Platoon also claim their positions. Those who can, settle behind some solid cover in the hallway. Most hop to breach into nearby rooms, taking cover inside them and only poke their las rifles out. Though slightly surprised by our sudden, yet well-oiled action, Mama leads her sisters of battle to form an overlapping field of fire with that of 3rd Platoon. More than that, she has Savary and her fire team guarding the vents and other avenues of approach. The sisters are poised to prevent us from being flanks from the sides where there are interconnected bulkheads. Lastly, Tushan has the bulk of the salamanders set up a bastion of green to guard our backs. Unlike the guards or the sisters who still require environmental cover, the salamanders just stand there, menacingly. Gulp, I wish I could help but... yeah, I pretty much can't. Morale support it is, then. Don't make a mess of my inside, any more than it already has, at least. I trust my instinct, so without looking around, I ask. Can someone check the motion sensor? I have a strange feeling like we are being hunted. Chief Librarian Velkina replies. Let me do you one better. For some reason, I can feel there's a smirk beneath his helmet. The salamander-sanctioned psyker then channels his energy, broadcasting etheric pings of sorts at regular intervals. It's faint, nearly undetectable if not for my experience playing with my Abyss Totem Stigmata. What Velkina is doing right now is like echolocation, the pings allowing him to detect movement in the confined space of the Pegasus hull. The effectiveness of this technique is even better than the scanner built into a Space Marine's helmet at detecting enemies, but faltering at doing anything else. I have detected multiple unknowns coming toward us. They're cold, unalive, and will soon come into our sensor's range. Velkina reports. It appears you have a good instinct, Corporal. I nod before asking. Rules of engagement? Mama is the one to reply. If they gaze at you funny, scrap them. I grin. In that case, don't blame us guards if we hog all the kills, Mama. Should I be concerned? Chapter 18, From Katia with Love. Crouching, with most of my body protected by my carapace shield, I hum a barely audible tune as I wait for the metallic steps to approach. Behind me, Vice is bracing her las rifle against the wall with half of her body hidden in a recess. Sergeant Johnson is a bit behind me to my right, using what seems to be the remains of a makeshift barricade as a cover. Other members of my platoon are also setting up positions in some dead-end crew quarters, either to poke out and engage the enemy or are on standby for when a member needs to reload. Other than that, 1/3 of the special weapons squad is positioned in a small hallway. They form a makeshift barricade using some furniture from the crew quarters to set up a fighting position there. Afterward, they set up the heavy stubber they're carrying down on a bipod, thus locking down the entire hallway. Similar to how we guards have made the front area into a hasty kill zone, the salamanders under Tushan also form an overlapping field of fire to protect our rear. Meanwhile, Mamas and Savary's Sisters of Battle are tasked with shoring up our flanks and to reinforce either of the guards or the Space Marines, if the situation calls for it. Given that there are only seconds left before the first unknowns appear down my corridor, I think we have performed quite well in forming a defensive position. As for why we don't just send someone to be an aggressive scout, doing so would be the height of foolishness. We have neither the floor plans for the Battlestar nor an accurate intelligence package on whoever or whatever is still roaming these decks. Speaking of which, as expected, the first active things to come into view are no humans, but mere facsimiles of one of the most widespread bipeds in this Grimdark galaxy. Much like the broken-down husks that were their compatriots, these clankers in front of us seem to be barely clinging to life. Their chrome exterior is marred with battle damage, negligence, and whatever the things that are floating in the air. Everything about them seems unnatural and mismatched, like they're made to conform to a singular puzzle, yet each uses pieces of different quality to do so. One clanker has a cracked mono-eye visor and dents on its head, yet its arms seem remarkably intact. Another one has scorched and cracked armor plates everywhere, save for its torso, which remains in near pristine condition. Pulling on my wealth of knowledge, both gifted and learned, I can hazard an assumption that the surviving clankers cannibalized disabled or deactivated ones for parts. It's unknown for how long the Pegasus has been cast adrift, but it must be quite some time for the human crews to be dried husks and the clankers to mutilate themselves. I still feel like we're missing something, but the mystery will have to be solved on another occasion. Right now, the clankers have just leveled their gun-equipped arms at us. Contact. I shout as I align the laser dot of my las pistol on the head of the clanker with the cracked visor. All at once, multiple laser beams cut down the first rows of clankers as most of the 3rd platoon and I engage the enemy piling down our front. While the clanker's armor may prove to be effective, somewhat, against Colonial's .45 ACP and 9mm Parabellum, they stand no chance against a shower of lasers. In a show of mastery, and partly enhanced by my battle meditation skill, nearly all the lost shots made by 3rd platoons are either headshots or center mass shots. It's nigh impossible to miss in such a confined corridor, and for the first time in a long time, 3rd platoon enjoys a 100% hit rate, at least for a short while. When the lumbering clankers are cut down by more than a dozen, they wise up and spool up their weapons in advance. Whenever a new clanker rounds their corner, they do so with both guns blazing. At first, the clankers only manage to squeeze their triggers for half a second before going down. However, as more and more clankers come out of the woodwork, the density of fire is driven to an uncomfortable level. Their kinetic weapons constantly unleash a withering hail of lead that forces some of my peers to abandon their positions altogether. This, as one can easily surmise, brings about a noticeable reduction in firepower. By the Emperor. Vice complains as she tucks her full body behind the recess in the wall. Bullets of unknown caliber strike where she's hiding, causing some fragmentations to bounce harmlessly against my gear. Don't they ever run out of ammo? I chuckle as bullets strike my black steel in futility. My full body is hidden out of view thanks to the shield and my small body size. Maybe they're acting out on a picked series or something. One never needs to reload on the screen. Vice looks at me as if I had grown a second head by joking while actively in the line of fire. On my part, being fired is but another Tuesday, and that recough Mama gave me to hit the spot just enough for me to be in the mood for mayhem. A bullet strikes a bit too close for comfort at Vice's position when she tries to blind fire her las rifle, causing her to complain. Arg, dang it. They're getting a bit too close for comfort. I lightly reply. Don't worry. It's either Mama will came to bail us out or Johnson decides that he has had enough. Yeah, well, I really have had enough, girl. Johnson barks out a laugh, shouting behind our position. Scorpion, my boy. Light em up with the noob tube. The rest of you, suppressive fire. I smirk while sparing Vice a glance. You heard the boss, full auto all the way. From Katia with love, baby. The clankers, stepping over the carcasses of their fallen and still holding down the triggers, are suddenly assaulted by the melting curtain of red light. The guards of 3rd Platoon don't even need to aim their las rifles, they only need to poke their weapons out of their hidey holes and fire. Our enemy have jammed themselves to the point that their corpses are interfering with their mobility, making the robots sitting ducks and prime pickings. In the blink of an eye, the walls of lead that have been suppressing our position collapse. This allows one of the specialists in 3rd Platoon, Scorpion, to reveal herself from her cover, pointing her drum-fed grenade launcher downrange. With 3 resounding thumps, she sends 3 57mm frag grenades at a dense formation of clankers by the corridor intersection. Barely a second later, 3 consecutive blasts decimate the clankers' position. The culminated shockwave pushes ancient dust and debris rushing down the length of the corridor. Holy Terra! Vice screams while shielding her helmet from the rolling dust cloud. Ein, you okay? The rookie turns to my position, only to see that I have disappeared from where I once was. With haste, Vice scans the corridor, only to see that the clankers are also attacking positions held by Space Marines and Sisters of Battle. However, I am with neither of them. In fact, I am now rushing ahead like a battering ram. The Emperor protects. Muttering a soft prayer with a small smile, I dash through the dust cloud. Immediately, I come to see a damaged clanker beneath my feet. Without stopping my momentum, I stomp hard on its neck joint, crushing its critical servos and separating its head from the rest of the half-melted body. Like a professional football player, I use my leg to juggle the decapacitated head once before kicking it with force slightly to my left. The flying head accelerates and accurately bashes another clanker, cracking its visor as the rest of the body crashes backward. With my trusty las pistol in my right hand, I finish off the downed enemy with a precise shot through its neck and head. The upcoming intersection has clankers standing both left and right and seemingly out of view. Yet, I manage to still make out their general postures and locations by using a combination of my instinct and the water vapor in the air. The latter, in particular, is a very creative application of my Abyss Totem Stigma. That said, I can pat myself on the back later. Now is the time to burst some chrome heads in. Running forward till the very end, I pull the pin of a frag grenade attached to my vest using my left hand. Instead of throwing the explosive right off the bat, I let my caffeinated veins take the lead and cook the hot potato. As the next batch of clankers starts moving to fill in the space left behind by their fallen brethren in the corridor, I lower my center of gravity and slide the last stretch of the way. The clankers, thinking that whoever is running at them is up at their level in height, mistakenly align their gun arms in the wrong elevation. Nobody expects a small guardswoman to come sliding their way with a shield. Before the 2 nearest clankers can correct the alignment of their guns, I bring up my las pistol and swiftly shoot the 2 of them in the heads, the right one first then the left one. Before the 2 clankers' corpses even collapse, I use the momentum generated from the turning of my body to toss my well-cooked frag grenade down to the left hallway. There, a fresh batch of clankers are forming ranks to move and attack my unit. Slamming black steel, my trusty shield down on the floor, my shield pointing left, I stop my slide and come to a crouch. Trusting my shield to cover the whole of my body and coming fire from the left, I raise my las pistol to swiftly eliminate the remaining threats to the right. I barely squeeze out 3 more pistol kills, when the grenade I threw exploded, taking with it around a squad of clankers. Not even looking at the aftermath of the explosion, I finish draining the rest of the energy pack in my las pistol to kill off the last of the clankers to my right. Pressing the magazine release button, I flick the drained energy pack out of my pistol. I am unable to reload the las pistol in time when footsteps of rumbling metals rapidly approach my left flank. From the corner of my eyes, I can see a clanker's metallic fist coming down to strike me. Acting on ingrained instinct, I use black steel to parry the blow away. Using my left leg as a pivot, I sweep out with my right and knock the damaged clanker clean off its feet. Not letting it catch a breather, I rise up before moving to slam my trusty carapace shield down on its torso. The force of my blow caves the robot's chest in, causing critical damage that disables its upper limbs. Seeing that it can only move its head now, I calmly reload my las pistol with one hand, using a spare energy pack on my battle belt. As the clanker moves its red optical sensor to look at me, I point the business end of my weapon at its head. In a way, I am doing you a favor. I then mouth the last word to the robot, not caring whether it can see my lips' movement or not. Cylon. I squeeze the trigger, melting a hole through the visor of the last clanker in this part of the ship. I have no idea how many of them are still left, but this won't be the last of them. I hope the other team won't encounter any loss in an engagement with these clankers. Rising to my full height, I come to see the full effect of my blitz. I can't help but whistle. Now, that's a lot of damage. I turn to look back at where the rest of my unit is, only to stop right where I am when I come face to face with Chapter Master Tushan's power armor. Before I can even say or do anything, Tushan brings out one of his fists, only to form it into a universal gesture of goodwill. A freaking thumbs up. Then, Mama appears from behind Tushan's eclipsing form, clapping with her armored hands. As expected of my daughter, giving you Reek-Off was a splendid idea. It doesn't have to be said that I can hear Vice groan all the way over here. Chapter 19, a surprising reward. After our initial battle with the Clankers, there are a few more skirmishes between members of the JTF and the Cylon remnants. There are a few casualties among the Cadian 8th who are part of the second boarding party and the command post that also acts as our entry and fallback point. Nothing fatal nor serious from the reports we receive, just some minor injuries due to stray and lucky shots by the Clankers. Ultimately, the boarding parties managed to comb a large swath of the Pegasus, identifying and seizing control of the Battlestar's bridge and engineering bay. Right now, we are waiting for the second team to get the void ship's power back online to bring life back to the Pegasus bridge. Standing guard in the brain of the Pegasus, I watch on as the tech priests start crafting connection ports to the vessel's cogitators. So, what do you think? I turn to the speaker, seeing that Mama has approached me for a chat. Behind her, I see that she has tasked Savory and Sergeant Johnson to set up a patrol outside the bridge area. Vice is a part of their group, alongside a couple of Salamander Space Marines. Smiling at Mama, I reply. You may have to be more specific than that, Mama. Mama hums with an amused smirk, sidestepping me to appraise black steel, my carapace shield. The Pegasus, and what it brings in its hold. Ah, that. I answer sincerely. This is a opportunity. Despite the initial hiccups on our way here, the Pegasus does present a potential technological goldmine. While the marvels of the Pegasus may not be that of a revered standard template construct, they can still prove to be very beneficial for the development of the Imperium, Mama. Granted, the knowledge buried in this vessel must be pure and not tampered with. I stop, mulling my words for a bit. Seeing as the crew of the Pegasus seems to be all humans as well, this void ship could have belonged to a lost colony of the Imperium. That alone has given us the just cause to investigate and seize anything of note. For the Mechanicus, there's an allure in investigating the what could have been for human technology. As long as the equipment of this void ship does not infringe on the taboo, it's highly likely that they can be recycled into usable technologies for the Imperium at large. Mama smiles thoughtfully. What of the fanatics in the Mechanicus then? Do you think they will snuff out the prizes seized in this vessel? I shake my head, knowing full well how impossible that will be. Normally, the fanatics may get away with stymieing any technology that is not STC derived. But Mama, the Joint Task Force is sanctioned by Archmagos Dominus Call himself, and he is a progressive individual, according to what I've learned about him through the tech priests. Surely the Archmagos will not let this opportunity be ruined by someone else. Even the traitors will have to think twice, now that even the Archmagos flagship is in orbit of Cadia. That is indeed true. Mama nods, giving my shield a light tap. The Archmagos indeed make it clear that no one is allowed to wreck this precious opportunity, in his opinion. Call's initial research on how the void ship crashed without triggering much of the auger arrays suggested that a new type of FTL travel is afoot. Much like the miniaturized device we found back on the so-called Raptors. Mama then leans over my shield, whispering into my ear. The Archmagos Dominus let it slip to a selected few that this FTL drive may not even use the warp as a medium to travel at all. I gulp, more because Mama is sticking so close to me rather than the severity of the news. The implication of this is immense. I dare say, this wreckage now outweighs Cadia itself. And it does explain why the traitors deployed in force, but not how they're able to know of this intelligent. Mama giggles as she understands that I am feeling conscious about her presence. Pulling away slightly, she says. I can't be more proud of you, Ayn. Not only do you have such fine martial prowess, but you also have the mental faculty and the heart to go with it. The time we stood apart has been a fine tonic for your growth. I am just saddened that I couldn't be there personally, watching you mature day by day. Feeling my heart going mushy at Mama's sincerity, I move to offer her a one-handed hug. I am a tad annoyed that my height barely reaches Mama's breastplate, however. You're here now, Mama. In fact, everyone is here, Savory, our sisters, and that's what matters most. There will be time for us to catch up on lost tales, especially now that the JTF may as well be a long-term assignment due to how critical our current mission is. Smiling, Mama returns the hug. She seems a bit saddened that she can't pat my hair now that my helmet is in the way. Still, it doesn't stop her from saying, I will not squander this chance, Ayn. The Emperor has surely blessed me to be here for you. There's a certain conviction in Mama's words that is oddly intriguing and comforting at the same time. But back to the topic at hand. Yes, we don't know how the traitors could have deployed here even before we did. The size of their detachment suggested that they must have known the true worth of the Pegasus, but how? We didn't know what the void ship truly was until the Archmago's Dominus call analyzed the fragmented intel we pulled from the intact void craft. I adopt a frown, pulling away from the hug in time to see flickering light as power is returned to the bridge after years of being defunct. As much as I hate to suggest this, Mama, but I think there's a higher power at play. Katia is not immune to the manipulation of those beyond the Eye of Terror. Mama mirrors my expression before sighing. That is indeed a grave possibility. Alas, in the face of such a grim prospect, the best we can do is request more firepower. Cole must have known of this, or at least calculated himself to this potential outcome. It's why the arc mechanicus above Katia is now working at full output. I nod, not hiding my relief that there's a planet-sized factory producing war material 24 out of 7 now. Katia stands to win the more resources are invested into it. After all, the planet is destined to face the ultimate peril in the future. Firepower is the answer to everything, huh? If it's not the answer, then we simply aren't using enough of it. Mama chuckles at my comment. An astute observation, my dear. With enough firepower, one surely can beat the ruinous ones back to the holes that they came from. As much as I hate how orc society works, I do admire how it can use the simplest of methods to bludgeon the most complex of problems to its knees. I can't help but laugh slightly at that. Mama is not wrong about the orcs, that's for sure. We then continue to have our little mother and daughter bonding moment while watching how the tech priests interface with the rundown cogitators of the Pegasus. Oh my, this surely feels freaky. The gaze of these tech priests of yours is even worse than that of tech maniacs. It's as if these people are more comfortable with seeing the world in binary form. While looking at how the tech priests work to parse through archaic cogitators, Mama and I hear some offhand comments, praising the elegant simplicity of the Pegasus operating system. Yet, there are also voices of confusion and befuddlement at the complete lack of a machine spirit to keep such a large vessel running. Unfortunately, there are big parts of the data stored in the Pegasus that are lost due to the corrosion of time. Those still acquirable are packaged into a heavily encrypted file before being transmitted to Belisarius Call himself for analysis. Sorry, I can't exactly stop the data corruption. It's been years since my hull was shut down by the Cylons. Due to the potential traitorous hazards surrounding Battlestar Pegasus, it's decided that the crash site will be even more fortified than it already is, with the Iron Revenant literally positioned in a geosynchronous orbit above the site. Will this attract unwanted attention? Absolutely. Will they dare to do anything? Most probably not, considering an Arc Mechanicus is stupidly powerful, and that's not mentioning the plethora of void ships around it. Will some stupid people dare to wander into the crash site? Rather than answering yes or no, it's better to say when. Still, the more you fuck around, the more you find out. Research about the Pegasus will be conducted on site, with may or may not involve vivisection of the entire void ship. The tech priests will no doubt want to get their oily hands on the blink drive and pray before it to see how it works. For the foreseeable future, I, alongside the rest of the people who are already on the crash site, will be stationed here to protect the researchers. Basically, the entire JTF will be deployed here, with or without the planetary governor's permission. In our chat, Mama says something about Call 6ing the Inquisition on the man for dereliction of duty. To that, I can only deadpan at how absurd that information is. Okay. And here I thought that tech maniacs are bad enough. Yet, these robed people? Why the hell are they pulling out incense and binary Kim? Better yet, do they always have them on hand and where are they hiding them? An inquisitor that is actually friendly and is willing to cooperate. Is this even 40k? But then again, it's not that far-fetched that Call is on good terms with the Inquisitions. Being a powerful and influential Archmago's Dominus, Call must have befriended the Inquisition out of sheer necessity. More than that, the narrative that the Inquisition is a bunch of space Nazis may as well be just a partial truth. The 40k universe is so vast that surely everything is not all grimdark, despite what the media in my past life had fed me with. I do know for sure that many worlds in the Imperium have never experienced any darkness that this universe has to offer for thousands of years. However, the Imperial propaganda has so adeptly painted the picture there's war and death everywhere, painting a fearful future for the common Imperium citizens. This fear then drives them to contribute to the state, for good or for worse. It's only when one digs deep that one realizes the truth behind the propaganda, which I did after perusing the Cadian archive for worldly information. But I digress. Extracting the data out of the Pegasus terminals proves to be an uneventful endeavor. Yet, when the tech priests are done with the task, my system gives me a surprising notification. Bonus mission accomplished, helped vanquish a traitorous warband. Successfully impressed parties of interest in your martial prowess and mental acumen. Successfully secured the derelict Battlestar Pegasus. Successfully influenced the decision to kickstart the reverse engineering of useful colonial technologies, granting rewards, 10 cosmic cookies. Disclaimer, Cosmic cookies act as a form of currency to trade for random rewards. Each cosmic cookie can trade for 10 random rewards. Barred some special events and circumstances, cosmic cookies are unobtainium. To use cosmic cookies, the user must gift them to a Shoggoth as tribute. The only Shoggoth known to the user is Nikolai the Shoggoth. Belkan Imperialist chatroom unlocked. User can use the system's chatroom to send messages and gifts to anyone designated by the user. The participants of the chatroom are beholden to the laws and protections implemented by the Void. In the event that the laws and protections are violated, the Void will deploy enforcers. Messages and gifts can be sent anonymously. The system admin will unlock more chatroom functions for the user as time goes on. Chapter 20, Pegasus is the Holy Grail. Then, Mama, I will retire to the barrack. If you need me or any member in 3rd Platoon, you know where to find us. Remember to have a good night, Mama. Elizabeth smiles as she waves her daughter goodbye. The Canonist Superior watches as Ain chats with her platoon mates before finally disappearing into a recently erected barrack building for the Cadian 8th. Idly, Elizabeth praises Savary for having the foresight to suggest the new barrack area has separate private quarters for males and females. While it's indeed a minor improvement to the quality of life of the Cadian 8th guards, the distinction is made mostly because both Savary and Elizabeth inherently dislike the idea of Ain sleeping in a room with men around. Although Ain's 3rd Platoon seems surprisingly professional in everything they do and the Sisters of Battle don't have to worry about their unofficial mascot being infringed upon, Elizabeth and Savary are dead set on protecting Ain's purity whenever they can. Elizabeth, after confirming that Ain has now retired for the day, turns and walks away. Come now, Savary. Let's see what the Dominus has to discuss before calling it a day as well. Right behind you, Elizabeth. With their helmets still equipped, Savary speaks with familiarity through a private Vox channel. It's indeed a shame that Ain can't stay with us sisters. The girls are missing the day when Ain ran around to offer free hugs. Though she still maintains her impeccable strides, Elizabeth's armored shoulders are noticeably slumped. The Canonist Superior replies with a tinge of regret. Unfortunately, it will throw the recently formed cohesion of the Joint Task Force out of whack if we took her for the order. For the nascent JTF, we can't show blatant favoritism, lest we breed negative emotions for our enemy to utilize. Even worse is that the enemy may see Ain as a weakness. It will defeat the entire premise of subtly safeguarding Ain with additional firepower and preventative measures. At least for the short term, Ain must be hidden from the eyes of those truly dangerous to her development. Savary sighs wistfully. Ah, if only the Emperor can bless her to be stronger, and fast. That way, we can stop hiding and just wantonly show her off to the world. Elizabeth smirks. Confess the truth, sister. You only want to get beneath my daughter's skirt sooner, rather than later. I plead the 5th. Whatever that means. Savary shrugs, finding herself recalling some unfortunate sod saying that before being blasted by her with a bolter. But honestly, have you seen how well she has matured in the time we spent away? Elizabeth finds herself at a loss for words regarding how blatant Savary was in asking that question. That's my daughter you're talking about, girl. But I don't deny that she is well developed in the right areas. Her height has also made her to be the perfect pillow as well. Savary rolls her eyes, though the action is hidden by her helmet. Of course you will say that. You're the one that spent the most time with Ain, hogging her all for yourself back in the Khazar? Hey. Elizabeth doesn't even bother muting her smirk, much to Savary's chagrin. Bantering like that, it takes no time for Elizabeth and Savary to arrive at the command center in the JTF space of operation. It has been half a week since they first boarded the void ship Pegasus. In that time frame, the base has changed from being hastily constructed to a formidable garrison on the surface of Cadia. Most predominantly, the base of operation is large enough to encompass the entire length of the Pegasus, thus preventing any further chaos incursion from hampering the tech priest's research effort. Some may think that it's nearly impossible to construct such a large base in the span of a few days, but this is the 41st millennium. Everything is possible now. The JTF's command center is one of the first buildings to be rebuilt into a small fortress. Sporting heavy defensive weapons, armor platings, and even large underground areas, the command center is where the leaders of the JTF come to hold private discussions. Making their way inward and downward, Elizabeth and Savary navigate the minimalistic prefabricated corridors until they reach a secured meeting room. Receiving nods from Salamander Space Marines and their Sisters of Battle, Elizabeth and Savary make their way past a sliding glass door. Turning over to look at them, the towering form of Archmagos Dominus Felizarius Call greets. Canonist Superior, Palatine, you have arrived. He then directs his vision over to the rest of the people in the room. Shall we start this discussion in earnest? Other than the Sisters of Battle and the Salamanders, there are also high-ranking members of the Cadian 8th and a surprising presence of a liaison from the famed Lucifer Black's regiment. Elements of the Lucifer Blacks arrived upon Kadia more than a week ago. However, they were hampered by the ineffective governing of the planetary governor on Kadia. It's only when that particular individual turned indisposed by a certain inquisitor that the Blacks officially joined the joint task force. Dominus Call, seeing the silent nods of the people in the room, mentally activates a large holographic table with a built-in cogitator. It's with this particular device that Dominus presents his recent findings with visual aids. Scores of texts, numerical data, calculation results, blueprints, and old combat footage. All are shown in a logically arranged manner that serves to better present a narrative for those present. The Omnissiah blesses us, for the Mechanicus has found many wonders hidden in an otherwise archaic void ship. We have uncovered blueprints and intact assembly lines to build 2 new voidcraft. Both designs are deemed fit for void and atmospheric utilization, with them capable of fulfilling roles that have been deemed unsuitable for our larger voidcraft. Dominus Cole then highlights the Colonial Viper and Raptor designs. These designs are made to be cheap and easy to build, yet stand to last the test of time. Nearly any factory worth their thrones will be able to build them. However, it's the Raptor design that lays an interesting finding. Elizabeth nods. We know, Dominus, the miniaturized FTL drive. Dominus Cole goes on to say. Indeed, you all know. The benefits of a small FTL drive that can fit inside a voidcraft are immense. However, not every one of you knows just how big of an impact this particular brand of FTL drive truly is. I did not lie when I surmise that this technology bypassed the step to harness the warp altogether. The mention of the warp instantly catches everyone's interest, particularly that of Chief Librarian Velkina. Are you suggesting what I am thinking? Dominus Cole patiently presents the findings about the Colonial FTL drive. It's as you have suspected, this FTL technology, henceforth shall be known as Blink Drive, is priceless. Our current FTL drive uses the warp as a medium to transcend spatial distance. However, the Blink Drive eliminates the need for the warp to act as an intermediary. To put it simply, a Blink Drive uses a dimensional transport effect. The ships instantaneously teleport from one point in space to another with little to no delay when crossing immense distances. It takes merely a blink. The masked liaison of the Lucifer Blacks comments while reviewing the data. Hence the name Blink Drive. Dominus Cole replies. There's no limitation, one can even jump inside the atmosphere for tactical advantage before jumping out back into the void. The only true limiters are the size of the Blink Drive, its power source, and the calculations it takes to achieve the jump. Any of these can be easily rectified to suit our needs, given our technological level that surpasses that of the humans who created Battlestar Pegasus. Savory tilts her head. Battlestar? It's a ship classification for this colonial faction that constructed the Pegasus. Dominus Cole answers. Most unfortunately, many data have been corrupted, lost to the passage of time. The most recent log we uncovered has been that of the Pegasus' final fate. It was boarded by the clankers in combat and its navigation system was severely damaged, thus leading to a series of uncontrollable FTL jumps until it crashed on Kadia. By then, the Pegasus had been adrift for 16 years. Colonel Mustahim of the Kadian 8th marvels. 16 years. Milord Dominus, are you saying this void ship had been jumping constantly for 16 years, even without a living crew? Dominus Cole nods, gazing at the holographic recreation of Battlestar Pegasus. That is correct. It's merely a result of a faulty and damaged cogitator system. Nevertheless, it serves as a testament to the high efficiency of the Blink Drive for achieving 280,506 FTL jumps in 16 years. This means that the Pegasus automatically made a jump every half an hour constantly. With time, I believe we can shorten the time frame between jumps even more, provided we can supply a Blink Drive with enough power. Unbelievable. Chapter Master Tushan breathes out in shock. No one can blame the salamander for his exclamation. The people in this room are smart enough to understand the implications of the Blink Drive technology. The Lucifer Blacks liaison speaks raspily. This is like the Holy Grail in the old tales. Has this technology been vetted for corruption? Dominus Cole replies steadily. Would I dare inform you all if otherwise? Nonetheless, it's prudent to pursue additional testing using Voidcraft and even Voidship. We must replicate and master this technology. Elizabeth hums. If this branch of humanity, the Colonials, could construct these Blink Drives en masse, I don't see why we can't do better than them. The Iron Revenant will be pioneering the testing and manufacturing of the Blink Drives. Due to the critical nature of this endeavor, even I must request support from the Salamanders, Chapter Master Tushan. Dominus Cole turns to the Chapter Master. Then you shall have it. Our fleet shall stand to protect the Iron Revenant. Tushan nods, understanding the severity of the task at hand. Colonel Mustahim interjects. We must rope in the novice Imperialists as well. More ships to stand between the Iron Revenant and the Eye of Terror is always welcome, even if they don't understand the full picture. Dominus Call agrees with the suggestion. That can easily be arranged. Elizabeth interjects calmly. Things will be more lively from here on out with how half of the sector's military seems to be concentrated on Katia. Savary comments. Then we shall have no fear with all the firepower at our disposal. Vulcanus sighs. I am more afraid that our enemies will be raising trouble elsewhere. They may not touch upon Katia, but neighboring systems are still free games. Tushan pats Vulcanus' shoulder. Don't forget, brother, we have an Arc Mechanicus here. The neighboring sector will find themselves with an influx of new equipment to bolster their ranks soon enough. It will offset any hostile scrutiny. Force multiplier, the Iron Revenant is. Dominus Call nods in agreement. However, if you all can return your attention to this piece of important news. The Lucifer Black Liaison raises an eyebrow, hidden behind the faceless mask. There's still more? You really aren't kidding when you said that this Pegasus was an omniscient endeavor. Call nods at the Lucifer Black before revealing something no less shocking than the blink drive. If the presence of a single Arc Mechanicus in the Katia system means the entire region of space will have a marked increase in combat effectiveness, then what about two of them? After analyzing the surviving sensor data of Battlestar Pegasus, I have learned that the Pegasus had a brief encounter with an abandoned and ancient facility on a barren planet. Sensor readings from the Pegasus indicate the presence of a possible and unactivated Arc Mechanicus in the heart of that facility. If the data is verified to be true, we must do everything we can to retrieve this Arc Mechanicus. The revelation is seemingly too good to be true, especially after the windfall that is the blink drive. Sensing their suspicion, Dominus Call explains. Although the planet is in known space, it's buffered by a coiling warp storm. In theory, the storm is strong enough to destroy the planet many times over. However, there seems to be something akin to the Kadian black pillars. A membrane of energy exists to protect the void space around the planet from the rolling warp energy. Directly traversing to the planet is impossible to accomplish. Yet, if we can outfit some vessels with the blink drive. The Lucifer Black Liaison finishes the sentence. Then we can go in the same way the Pegasus did. And here I thought this JTF endeavor would be just another protection job. Elizabeth hums. Still, it's not like we can just set off to that planet immediately. There's much to be done on Katia. Tushan nods. We must master the blink drive and set up a more effective governing body for Katia. If it wasn't for the Inquisitor to detect a warp infestation among the upper ruling body, we might have been stabbed in the back in the future by them. For us to make any serious move, we need to crack down on any corruption on Katia first. Dominus Call uses a mechanical arm to pat himself on the back. There are some benefits to be had when you're on good terms with an Inquisitor. However, let's not forget the true purpose of the JTF. Call's reminder is left cryptic, with only those in the knowns, well, no. The discussion and planning then continue from that point onward. Midway through the session, Elizabeth can't help but think about Ayn and what she is doing in her free time. Chapter 21, Cashing in a cookie. Stepping out of the female showering area while using a towel to dry my glistening black hair, I feel slightly thankful that my hair is kept short. While I am attracted to a ponytail hairstyle, keeping it tidy as a guardswoman will be a pain. This is not to mention that long hair makes it nigh impossible to get it under a helmet. Passing by my fellow Kadianate ladies, with them greeting me either out of politeness or familiarity, gestures of which I do return, I soon find myself at the shared quarter assigned to the female members of my 3rd platoon. Although we are in the barrack area, it's more accurate to say that I am staying in a dormitory alongside my fellow ladies. Males and females are assigned different buildings. All buildings have their own armories while sharing a singular yard for general activities. Due to the expedient nature of their constructions, the buildings are sparsely furnished with only the bare necessities for the guards. They are, however, extremely sturdy and easily defended should the need arise. Each dormitory is, in essence, an enlarged bunker, built to last with little in between. There's not even a paint job for the exterior or the interior of these dormitories. Other than a few camouflage nettings and the emblazoned imperial atlas, the buildings sport only the dull colors of the material used in their construction. Truly, we Kadians are utilitarians to the core. The moment I slide open the steel door and step inside, I immediately sigh knowingly as a pair of hands move to grab me from the side. Soon enough, I feel 2 mounds of flesh press on my head as I am pulled into a friendly hug. Scorpion, must we do this now? I say wryly, addressing one of the specialists in 3rd Platoon's Special Weapon Squad. A tall Kadian woman with short brown hair and a thin scar running down her right eye. Scorpion is what one would call a gentlemanly pervert. I say that because she tends to have a roaming pair of hands when we girls are in private. That said, she is not just dependable but also knows how to perfectly balance her cultured tendencies and interpersonal relationships so as not to cause anyone discomfort. Oh, and she is also the oldest of us girls in 3rd platoon, which prompts her to occasional bursts of mama bear actions when someone commits a faux pas on us ladies. Smirking as she leans over her boobs to look down on me, Scorpion answers. But of course. It's been a while since I have taken your measurements. Now that we have some privacy, I can do this now. Having said that in a righteous tone, Scorpion moves to palm my breasts and causes me to blush slightly. I stay silent as Scorpion roams her hands underneath my shirt. It's futile to resist this woman's advance. Not to mention I am also feeling somewhat obligated to reward Scorpion for a job well done with her grenade launcher these past few days. These are the reasons why I can only stand still, biting back a moan, as Scorpion gently fondles my breasts and even teases my nipples. Since I am wearing a slightly damp unbuttoned white shirt and hot pants, the older specialist basically has unhindered access to the wonderful treat that is my cuddleable hourglass form. Nodding to herself, Scorpion comments shamelessly. Perfectly sized and balanced, as all things should be. Honestly speaking, you really do have the nicest pair of tits around, Ein. Big and small breasts are overrated, it's the form-fitting ones that deserve to be cherished. Though I feel flattered by Scorpion's sincere, albeit a bit pervy comment, it doesn't stop me from blushing a tad redder in shyness. There's little to no way I can counter such shameless but paradoxically sincere praising. Thankfully, I am saved from turning into a boiling kettle when the last 2 female members in 3rd platoon come to twist Scorpion's ears chidingly. One of them even comments in annoyance. Seriously, Scorpion? You already bedded 2 of us, yet you still preying on poor little Ein like this? The girl, who is also one of Scorpion's girlfriends, winks apologetically at me. Sorry about this doofus, Ein. I fix my shirt, noticing the few droplets of water that run from my cleavage down to my belly. I cough to push through my embarrassment. It's okay. Scorpion might be a doofus, but at least she's 3rd platoon doofus. Hearing my endearing jab, Scorpion actually pops her chest out in pride. Unfortunately, her 2 girlfriends frown and twist her ears even harder, prompting the specialist to nearly keel over in pain. That's just karma for groping me, Scorpion. Still, looking around, I notice there are only 4 of us in the quarter. Raising an eyebrow, I ask. Does anyone know where our rookie is? If you're looking for Vice, she headed off to look for some chow and a walk before hitting the bathroom. Answered one of Scorpion's girlfriends. Now if you would excuse us, we will have to take Scorpion over here elsewhere and render her some discipline. Unironically, Scorpion is promptly dragged out of the quarter, presumably to the bathroom where I came from. Despite the circumstance she landed herself in, Scorpion sports only a fake facade of panic. Shaking my head at the play the trio conducted, I speak out to them as the door is closing. Try not to break the plumbing this time. No promise. One of them shouts back right when the door is closed. I sigh, shaking my head with a small smile. It's moments like earlier that I am reminded of a fact. We're humans, after all. Off the field, when all the blood is dried and rifles are cooled off, we Cadians are no different than the common citizens of the Imperium. We have our own interests, aspirations, and even quirks and personality traits that resurface when our facade as Imperial Guards is shed. It's because of this that whenever 3rd platoon is deployed, I always set out with the mind to protect my platoon mates to the best of my ability. Maybe I cannot save this universe, but I can at least make peace with the fact I am doing whatever I can to protect the few beacons of light in this Grimdark future. I hang my towel on a drying rack before I hop onto a bunk bed. Of course, due to my short stature, I am given the top bed, with Vice securing herself the bottom one. Laying down on the slightly hard bedding, I mull over the gains I've made throughout the last few days. Due to the constant patrols, I didn't really have the time to give everything a once-over. Now in a private setting, I can go ham and analyze what I received. Pulling out my Yoro Doshi from a belt draping over the bed railings, I idly make it supernaturally spin on my palm. This is a method I developed to train my usage of the Abyss Totem Stigmata and my multitasking skills. Bonus mission accomplished, helped vanquish a traitorous warband. Successfully impressed parties of interest in your martial prowess and mental acumen. Successfully secured the derelict Battlestar Pegasus. Successfully influenced the decision to kickstart the reverse engineering of useful colonial technologies, granting rewards, 10 cosmic cookies. Disclaimer, cosmic cookies act as a form of currency to trade for random rewards. Each cosmic cookie can trade for 10 random rewards. Barred some special events and circumstances, cosmic cookies are unobtainium. To use cosmic cookies, the user must gift them to a Shoggoth as tribute. The only Shoggoth known to the user is Nikolai the Shoggoth. Belkin Imperialist chatroom unlocked. User can use the system's chatroom to send messages and gifts to anyone designated by the user. The participants of the chatroom are beholden to the laws and protections implemented by the Void. In the event that the laws and protections are violated, The void will deploy enforcers. Messages and gifts can be sent anonymously. The system admin will unlock more chat room functions for the user as time goes on. Those were the things I first read when Battlestar Pegasus was clear. Although I still don't know why the chat room is named Belkan Imperialis, it didn't stop me from tentatively using its functions back then. When I gifted a cosmic cookie to the Shoggoth that I met in the bar, I received these system messages. Nikolai the Shoggoth, chat room moderator, overworked. Waiting for lunch break. Status, don't PM me unless someone breaks the laws again, or if you have cookies. Cookies are nice. Do you want to send this gift to Nikolai the Shoggoth? 1x cosmic cookie, yes or no, is this an anonymous gift? Yes or no, sending gift. Done, Nikolai the Shoggoth has received the gift. Nikolai is tired. A cosmic cookie is deposited on top of Nikolai's head. Nikolai jumps in the surprise. Nikolai clappers happily for the cosmic cookie. Nikolai is happy that the user remembered and sent her such a thoughtful gift. In her haste to grab the cosmic cookie, Nikolai accidentally topples her piles of documents down a couple of departments. Nikolai is shocked that her inattentiveness may cause a few universes to blink out of existence. Nikolai jumps out of the windows, cosmic cookies in tentacles, to try and stop the departments below from processing the wrong documents. Nikolai does not forget to repay the user's kindness, however. Nikolai uses 10 of her tentacles to reach inside her personal inventory. Nikolai pulls out 10 random rewards before gifting the user back. Nikolai has no time to elaborate. Nikolai has to leave after bidding the user temporary farewell, as any sane person would do. I nearly stumbled and laughed when I read the system messages. Fortunately, my self-control was at least good enough to maintain a poker face on this matter. I didn't want Mama to react weirdly when I suddenly burst out laughing. Hell, even now, I still want to laugh when I reread the entire message sequence. As for the rewards, well, they're truly random, for sure, akin to that of the daily login rewards. Basically, more gacha, yay. I received some status increases and a couple of helpful but otherwise not noteworthy passive skills. The surprise additions, however, are these. Cosmic Cookies rewards, 10x Wisdom Cubes. 1x Upgrade Whatever Ticket. Perk, Skillshare Gratuity. I mentally cycle through the descriptions for the items. Upgrade Whatever Ticket, as the name suggests, the ticket can be used to upgrade anything and anyone. The ticket's effectiveness is random, but the resulting upgrade or upgrades are guaranteed to always be positive. Usable by mentally designating the target to be upgraded and tearing the ticket. The upgrade process is tampered-proof and safe. This is a guarantee by the entire Shoggoth race. The ticket is supremely useful, and even that is an understatement. Knowing the implication of this thing, I am torn on what I should use the ticket for. My heart and mind are squabbling with each other about this matter, to the point I decided to shelve the ticket for the time being for my own sake. Moving on. Wisdom Cubes, a special, mysterious object in the world of Izerlane, carrying the hopes and dreams of mankind. Usable for many purposes, a Wisdom Cube is a high-efficiency, clean energy source that is easy to generate, easy to store, and cheap to use. Its notable and most important trait is to give birth to an existence called Kinetic's Artifactual Navy Self-Regulative and Lore Node, otherwise known as Kansen or Shipgirl. Wisdom Cube is capable of manipulating information, data, concepts, and even touching upon the realm of creation. Wisdom Cubes is blank unless the cubes is bound to a ship or an unmanifested spirit of a ship, right? There's no way in hell that I would fail to recognize the Wisdom Cubes. Those things were what I mined for daily to bring my shipfus home back in my first life. Oh, the memories. I am honestly missing my shipfus, having grown too attached to the port I built from scratch alongside the Kansens from all factions. But alas. Anyway, when I received the Wisdom Cubes, this alert came up. Detecting an unmanifested Kansen spirit, identified as Battlestar Pegasus. The Kansen spirit is at risk of dissipating. User, do you want to save the spirit using 4 Wisdom Cubes? Yes or no? Understandably, I picked yes. Any qualified Shikaken will do as I did. Binding Pegasus using 4 Wisdom Cubes. Merging Wisdom Cubes into a singular cohesive unit. Success. Battlestar Pegasus Wisdom Cube, inert. Need materials for the reconstructions of the Battlestar or a suitable unbound vessel for the Kansen to manifest fully. Status, thank you for saving me and avenging my crew, Ein. After years of grief and isolation, I can finally go to rest with peace of mind. Wake me, when you need me. When I read Pegasus' message again, I can't help but pat myself on the back. As a cultured Shikaken, I am glad that I could save her from a fate of obscurity. I have a feeling Pegasus will be a nice girl to get along with despite her tumultuous past. As for the last noteworthy thing. Perk, Skillshare Gratuity, a perk receives after learning and teaching numerous Skillshare online classes. The perk allows the user to share one of her skills with several beneficiaries. The beneficiaries can be anyone and anything. Currently, user can share a chosen skill with 4 beneficiaries of her choosing. Beneficiaries can be changed at any moment. Yup. Another extremely broken skill, or in this case, perk. Of the 4 beneficiaries, I already know who I will pick to share a skill with. Skillshare Classroom, Debuff Immunity, Mama, Elizabeth Fortier. Big Sister, Savory. Emperor of Mankind. Pending beneficiary, picking Debuff Immunity as a skill to share with the most important people in my life is a no-brainer. Although I have no idea how beneficial Debuff Immunity will be for the Emperor, I do hope that she should have an easier breathing room to combat the ruinous power with it. The last slot is for when I need to buff someone quickly. It can't be wrong to have a failsafe, you know. What I truly don't expect is how big of a deal my momentous decision will be for the galaxy at large. In a way, my ingrained position as a guardswoman kinda hampers the way I look at the extremely big picture. As for the remaining 9 cosmic cookies, I don't think I should use them now. My instinct is urging me to take it slow and chill for some time. Judging by her status, Nikolai is busy as well. I don't want that cute Shoggoth working overtime because I was too hasty with my gifts. Chapter 22, Move Along, Nothing is Dead. Las Rifle, the Imperial Guard's trademark across the entire galaxy. While not as powerful or imposing as a bolter, the Las Rifle is ubiquitous. It acts as one of the first and last lines of defense for many worlds. As such, its importance in the current Imperial war doctrine is absolute. Astartes and their bolters may be powerful, but the sheer scale of the Imperium means that Astartes chapters are few and far between. 99% of the time, combats and battles are fought without the presence of the Adeptus Astartes. In these conflicts, it's the Imperial Guards and the countless guardsmen and guardswomen that steadfastly hold the line and vanquish perilous threats. Hence, when the opportunity comes to improve the effectiveness of the Imperial Guards, Archmagos Dominus Felizarius Call jumps at the chance. For a marginal increase in production cost, barely noticeable since a las rifle is already so cheap, a twister module increases not just the accuracy but also the lethality of the guard's primary weapon. Even without the task entrusted to him by the Omnissiah, Dominus Call would have adopted Corporal Line's improvements for widespread adoption anyway. It's a good thing that the Corporal is Akkadian, where the tech priests there are of progressive thinking, much like Call himself. If it's anywhere else with stagnated Mechanicus factions, Dominus Call and the Imperium would have lost another card to fight against the encroaching darkness. Being an experienced Archmagos Dominus, Call knows how easy it is to brand a loyal, yet creative thinker as another heretic. The Dominus agrees that the Emperor's decision to have Corporal Line remain in the sector is not without good reasons. It's only out here that Dominus Call can see the youngling develop without shadowy scrutiny. There's also the benefit that any future innovation that the Corporal comes up with can be easily and immediately disseminated under Call's name. This is not to put more shine onto Dominus Call's name, however, it's more out of practicality as his name carries that much weight. A guarantee from Call himself means that the improved las rifle design and the derivative technologies from the twister module will be adopted instantly by the rest of the Imperium. Unless someone out there fails to get the memo, of course. Still, that is a talk for the future. Now, the first batch of the new and improved Cantrail MG-13 is being field tested in a variety of conditions by Cadian units on and off-world. Corporal Line's 3rd Platoon also receives several improved rifles, and so far, the reviews have been astounding. As expected of the manufactory chain aboard the Iron Riviant, managing to uphold product quality despite the short notice of the orders. With the MG-13 pattern having glowing reviews, Dominus Call sees it fit to intensify the research and improve other laser weaponry. From the Minute-Las pistol to the massive lance battery aboard the Void ship, the Dominus wants anything and everything to be more deadly than they already are. The quicker he can finish, adapt and even improve on Corporal Line's designs, the faster the rest of the Imperium can enjoy the benefits. Having reassembled my new Cantrail MG-13 patternless rifle for an uncountable amount of time, I can confidently say that I have mastered the manual of arms for this new weapon. That is to say that this thing is literally just a normal Cantrail, albeit 10 more grams heavier, and has a slightly different maintenance procedure. Still, after using and sleeping with the MG-13 for the past 2 weeks, I am surprised at how refined the design is. I know that I am the one who worked up the blueprints and all, but I truly didn't expect that everything would incorporate so seamlessly. Here I thought there would be some weird bulging or patchwork coverings, but yet, rifle is fine. The MG-13 shares nearly the same exterior as the base design. As for how effective the new pattern is, to put it in short, old reliable, but with more shots, more heat, and more accuracy. What's not to love? Some chuckle nuts in another platoon even had a sentinel stomped on the 13 as an extreme stress test, resulting in the rifle needing a new coat of paint but otherwise still as effective as before. Archmagos Dominus Felizarius Cull sure made the new pattern perfect for the Cabian criteria, which is to say long-lasting and effective. In the future, I will have to see if I can subtly pass on more blueprints or ideas to the Dominus. For now, we should focus on reverse engineering the technologies salvaged from Battlestar Pegasus. Speaking of Pegasus, I turn away from my range table, looking at the remnant of the void ship. Seeing as there were little to no benefits to be had from the Battlestar anymore, Colonel Mustahim suggested that the bulk of the Battlestar be converted into a planetary installation. Most of the armor platings on the Pegasus were melted down to aid in the expansion of the JTF base of operation. The remaining weapon systems aboard the Battlestars were similarly stripped down to be repurposed as well. However, parts of the flight pods and production facilities aboard the Pegasus were retained. After many days of work, the base of operation now has a fully functional and well-protected airfield, built upon the basis of the armored flight pods. The base of operation even has a limited production capability and is capable of producing war materials thanks to the manufacturing machine on site. While the base itself is nowhere near the size of a Cadian Kazra nor as powerful, the base of operation is the best option as a long-term staging area for the Joint Task Force. After all, the nature of our current tasking requires a certain degree of secrecy. Diverting my gaze away from the airfield, I look down at my las rifle. Picking it up, I operate the charging handle out of habit to check the internal action. It's a movement not dissimilar to how one would use an ancient AK-47. Unlike a normal ballistic weapon, the charging handle in a las rifle does exactly as it sounds, charging the weapon by connecting an internal mechanism to the power pack. Upon empty, the internal mechanism automatically disconnects from the drained power pack. Once a new one is in place, you will have to rack the charging handle one time to reconnect the mechanism, thus powering up the rest of the rifle from the power pack's energy. Now that I think about it, a las rifle is basically just Space Age AK-47 on steroids. Putting a fresh power pack in the magazine housing, I once again pull back the charging handle before releasing it back home. On the two sides of the magazine housing, small slits light up to show the remaining energy in the power pack. Nodding to myself when I see the indicator reflecting as a green bar filling the top of the slit, I hold the gun up, aiming for a target downrange. Although there's a foldable backup iron sight, I am currently using a reflex sight to aim. As one suspects, I am zeroing the new sight, with the sight being a package deal when I received the MG-13 rifle. Prior to this, I zeroed an adjustable day-night scope with 1x to 8x magnification. Although I don't mind sticking with iron sight, it's good to have options, and using a scope may invite less scrutiny in night ops. I need to hide many things, you know. With a pull of a trigger, I send a laser beam downrange. Faster than the normal eye can see, the red bolt of dead spiraled midair and drilled at a plate of ceramite acting as a dummy target. From my point of view, 300 meters away, I can see that I missed my point of aim by a single centimeter. A single centimeter of difference may not sound like much, but when you have to engage a minute target 500 meters away, that difference may have cost you your life or that of your companions. Humming a familiar tune, I adjust my sight before firing another beam. This time, the accuracy is impeccable, so I continue on expending the rest of my power pack. I have to make sure that the accuracy is not a fluke, after all. Fortunately, or should I say as expected, I zeroed my sight and gunned correctly. Thanks to the twister module, I noticed that the grouping of the shots is tighter. The additional 10 grams increased in weight actually balanced out the weight distribution of the las rifle, contributing to a reduced horizontal recoil. Overall, shooting the MG-13 is an even smoother experience than it already was. Cadian built the Cantrail pattern to last, and Dominus Cull improved the already splendid design perfectly. As for destructive capability, it is a bit hard to measure. If it takes 5 shots of an old las rifle to defeat a small block of ceramite, then now you only need around 3 to 4 with the MG-13. Prior to the MG-13, a power pack is drained after 60 normal shots. Now, the capacity is increased to 80 normal shots. To truly understand how effective these factors are when combined together, one must look at post-battle reports in grand conflicts. Something that we are fortunately not finding just yet. Seeing that there's nothing else to do, other than change out the melted dummy target for a new one, I stand up and unload the drained power pack. My attention is swiftly grasped by a voice calling for me. Ein. I turn around, seeing its mama approaching me from outside the open-air firing range. You're as dutiful as ever, I see, training even if it's your day off. I smile at Mama, putting my rifle down, and accept a power armor hug from Mama. I can't drag Mama or the Space Marines down, after all. Mama pats my head with a proud smile. Try not to burn yourself out, however. I nod understandingly. Yes, Mama. I know my limits, but it doesn't mean I will give up on expanding them. Mama chuckles. That's my girl. Now come with us, Ein. Someone has the bright idea to host a barbecue party for the off-duty soldiers. They even managed to have us sisters and the Astartes join in. It will be a shame if you miss such an event, and I find myself missing a good steak cooked by my daughter. Let me guess, Sergeant Johnson is the one that set up the venue. I giggle as Mama nods. Alright, let me put away my gear first before joining you. I promise I will roast a good slice for everyone, and Mama will get the juiciest piece. Mama unabashedly kisses me on the forehead before ruffling my hair. I am looking forward to that very much. I sport a rosy expression as Mama walks me out of the range. It's fluffy moments like this that make me forget that I am in the 40K universe. Chapter 23, coming to a slow halt at a refined wooden door, she gives herself a look over to make sure that she is presentable. Normally traveling around as a humanoid mass of golden light, she slowly condenses her form into that of her old body. After a bright flash of blinding light, what is revealed is a towering beauty, draped in the mythical One True Armor. The One True Armor, as its name suggests, is the pinnacle of power armor. It's not only perfectly crafted for protection but also for projecting and enhancing her already formidable power many times over. Stashes on her hip is a finely wrought, master-crafted blade. The sword is the symbol of her rule and is psychically touched with her power, capable of wielding leaping flames. When it is swung, the burning blade draws pyrotechnic arcs through the air, able to slice through the stoutest of armor and demonic horrors with ease. Besides her sword, her left gauntlet has a set of retractable lightning claws, with each claw positioned just above a finger. The claws are mightily capable of rending anything that stands in her way, all the while channeling the electrifying fury of her will. Complementing her resplendent suit of armor, a billowing cape of red can be seen floating in the energized winds. While the cape is seemingly there for aesthetics only, it's actually woven and enchanted to perfection, ensuring its durability and flexibility even to the point of acting as another layer of armor. Still, she won't deny that the cape is there more for the style than practicality. Pragmatism has its place, but style lasts forever, even in the grimdark future. As a finishing touch to her facade as the Emperor, a halo of blazing sun is seen hovering above her flowing hair of obsidian and metallic crown. Humming, she conjures a massive film of reflective surface, tall and big enough for her to view herself. Her glowing yellow eyes twinkle in satisfaction as her gauntleted hand moves to fix a stray strand of her hair. Dissipating the conjured mirror with a wave of her hand, she steps forward to the wooden door that seems barely able to fit someone of her stature before knocking on it very politely. In a way, the action shows her impressive control over her transhuman strength. Without waiting for a reply, she slowly turns the door handle and pushes it open. Finally, she steps inside the mysterious building with a gait that displays her familiarity with the situation. Just a moment ago, she floated about in the rolling and chaotic Empyrean. Yet, in the blink of an eye, she finds herself transported to a realm of peaceful normalcy, a quaint bar that exudes rustic elegance. There, standing right behind the counter while wiping an alcohol glass is the bartender herself. Seeing the familiar figure, she can't resist quirking her lips upward. "I have returned," she announces simply while stepping closer to one of the stools next to the counter. Miraculously, the space and the stool seem to expand magically to support the size and weight of her One True Armor. The seemingly innocuous stool doesn't even make as much as a soft creak when she sits on it. The bartender, keeping her eyes closed as mysteriously as ever, smiles in greeting. "Emperor, it has been a while." The bartender puts away the wiped glass before reaching for a crystal mug large enough to fit nicely into the palm of the Emperor of Man. Presenting the mug to the Emperor, the bartender grabs an alcohol bottle from a cabinet behind her before filling the mug with its contents. The Emperor watches with a peaceful smile as the familiar mug is filled with a sparkling crystal-clear liquid before being topped off with a perfectly sphered rock. The bartender says with a soft expression, "Sapphire's tears, your favorite." Though the bartender's eyes remain closed, she can feel the gaze of the bartender lingering on her face. "This one's on the house." Winking in gratefulness, she raises her crystal mug in a silent toast before downing half of the drink. Savoring the beverage with half-lidded eyes, she sighs in wistfulness as the mug is laid down back on the counter. Mulling over the aftertaste and the feelings left behind by the drink, the Emperor can't help but be reminded of the golden times long past. After a while of sitting in the silent company of the bartender, the Emperor speaks with a sense of familiar marvel. "Sapphire's tears." The Emperor raises her mug, rolling the rock floating in the half-finished drink. To think even Sapphire can cry and its tears being used to mix such a fine beverage. The bartender smiles softly with her elbows resting on the counter. When the beauty of the world is trampled upon, anything can cry. Opening one of her eyes, the bartender reveals the swirling mass of purplish gold cosmic energy swirling inside her iris. She levels a meaningful glance at the Emperor. The Omniverse is a magical place. Gazing at the absolute beauty that is the sea of stars hidden in the bartender's eye, the Emperor concurs. Indeed it is, Viola. The bartender, Viola, nods slightly before closing her gaze once more. She then says, "So, how is it going with the Imperium? I trust you haven't pushed Tyne into the spotlight before her time?" The Emperor shakes her head wryly. "Who do you take me for? I have learned enough lessons to last the rest of my supposedly immortal lifetime. Aine and everything around her will be developed in secrecy with the appropriate amount of tact and patience." Viola quirks her lips upward in a jesting smile. "You better stick to that plan. Otherwise, when my daughter arrives here, she will laugh you back to the Stone Age." The Emperor rolls her eyes. Those in the Imperium will do more than just balk when they see the Emperor actually pout in annoyance. Yeah, I absolutely cannot compare to your daughter who built or will build an eternal reign. Time is freaky around these parts, so I don't even know how to describe her career, now that I think about it." Viola shrugs with an easygoing attitude. "Who knows, really? My dear little Reich Marshal may knock on the bar tomorrow, or she will come here 40,000 years later. I'll say let nature run its course. We will meet, eventually." The Emperor deadpans while trying to drink from her mug. "You're speaking as if you're not the void, the originator of everything." Viola just smiles. "Where's the fun in abusing my power to get to the end? It's the journey that is important, Emperor." After taking another hefty gulp from her mug, the Emperor gently placed the crystal glass back on the counter. "Is that why you decided to toss an outerverse voidcraft at Aine's doorstep?" Tilting her head of short purple hair in a gesture that can be called cute in the Emperor's eyes, Viola replies. "The Pegasus, you mean? Believe me when I say that it wasn't really my decision. It's more like the Pegasus blink drive malfunctioned and it jumped directly into the void. When the Shoggoth enforcers arrived, they determined the Pegasus to be just another accident and washed their tentacles of it. This led to Nikolai nabbing it in her free time and sending the whole thing as a gift of sorts to Aine. I basically just watched the whole process from start to finish in amusement." "Wow." The Emperor says. "I won't look at a gifted horse in the mouth, but you're truly free here, huh? I wished I could be as idle as you." Viola shrugs. "I delegate, though the same can't really apply to you now, does it?" The Emperor sighs, pushing the empty mug to Viola for refill. "Yeah, I am literally holding the universe at the seams, a task that is impossible to be entrusted to anyone else. It's hard enough trying to find a free moment to visit the bar. I don't want some chucklenuts to ruin everything more than it already is." Viola chuckles as she pours another serving of Sapphire's tears for her. "Chucklenuts, huh? It's been a while since I heard that word." The Emperor shrugs in her suit of armor. "What can I say, I am a boomer. I don't even remember how old I am." The two ladies share a laugh. It's moments like this, being alone with Viola, that the Emperor cherishes the most. A caring and knowledgeable beauty for company, a peaceful atmosphere, and a good drink. What more can she ask for these days? The Emperor savors the experience surely, but she nevertheless paces herself, not willing to take Viola's hospitality for granted. Many things need the Emperor's attention. A grand play is in progress, and it would be remiss of the Emperor to falter at the first feelings of peace. Although Viola is no doubt kind enough to offer her embrace should the Emperor step away from everything, she will fail herself and all of humanity if she gives up now. At the great shepherd of mankind, the Emperor is not allowed to stop, at least not yet. Pulling herself from the feeling of duty, the Emperor is just about to say something when both she and Viola notice a subtle change. The glow of the Emperor's halo shines a tad brighter, more warmer. The Emperor's eyes glow more beautifully and the tiredness hidden in her gaze is wiped away magically. A renewed sense of power rises in her body, causing the Emperor to clench her fists in amazement. "Did you mix something in the drink, Viola?" Viola smiles softly, feeling happy as she witnesses the changes the Emperor is experiencing. "No, Emperor. I think you already know the answer to your question, no? It appears that picking Aine at the wild card has been a most beneficial decision." The Emperor stares at her palms in silence before she starts chuckling softly. As time goes on, that chuckle grows into a full-blown hearty laughter. "Although I can't reveal myself fully without risking the entire play, I can actually face slapping all four of them at once now." Without further ado, the Emperor stands up from her stool, unsheathing her sword and claws. "Put the drink on my tab, Viola, I have some wankers to buttfuck." Viola giggles as the Emperor stomps out of her bar, kicking the door open and shouting across the Immaterium. "Line up before me you little shits. This golden bitch is here to throw hands." Viola finally can't stop herself from shouting a jest after the Emperor. "Language, young lady." The Emperor quips back in a jovial tone as the door closes behind her. "Okay, Mom." Chapter 23, Chilling before the storm. Back in my past life, the few Warhammer trivia I read rarely touched upon the Imperial cuisine, with most of them tend to come back to the notorious corpse starch. While I won't dismiss that there's some truth in those trivia, it reflects only a minute portion of the Imperium's dining culture and is thick in bias. Countless as the most unfortunate of souls in the Imperium may be, one shouldn't discount the more common and fortunate citizens. Thanks to the latter, fine dining is appreciated among all corners of the Imperium, thus spurning the wheels of improvisation and improvement for the meals being put on the tables. This, when combined with the colorful ingredients that are sprinkled all over the galaxy, means dining culture in the Imperium is constantly evolving each and every single day. Paradoxically, the nebulous nature of warp travel, which keeps food supplies in flux, plays perfectly well into the ever-changing nature of Imperial cuisine. From the most common street vendors to the most opulent of restaurants, menus and techniques are forced to adapt to the constantly varying food suppliers. One may as well be frying the equivalent of chicken meat one day before they have to switch to roasting aquatic shellfish for a living tomorrow. As long as there are demands for good food, which always exist in this universe, and there are suppliers available, the chefs of the Imperium never fear running out of business. This means the food industries are lucrative enterprises to embark on, for even a space marine can fancy a good drumstick. And the robust Imperium supply lines, built upon the back of massive void haulers, ensure that food products are always in transit from one star system to another. Of course, risks are always present in the shadow of any endeavor, so only the most ambitious and well-prepared individuals can thrive in the culinary war. That said, my time spent living in the Imperium has me classified the foods and beverages into a few groups: exotics, which are usually the most expensive but not guaranteed to be the tastiest. More often than not, these exotic foods and drinks are reserved only for the elites of the Imperium. The apple peach is one example of an exotic food common. As straightforward as it sounds, common dishes are primarily catered toward the common populace of the Imperium. However, what is common today can be a vastly different common tomorrow. Nonetheless, they are most certainly edible and safe to consume, for the most part. At the very least, they are nutritious and are usually tasty. Most importantly, they are affordable due to the vast quantity being supplied or harvested locally. Signature dishes still exist, of course, and are mostly region-specific and made from locally available ingredients. The quality and cost of the stuff made from these ingredients varied wildly. The signature category tends to overlap with the other categories. Military food. In short, rations and MREs. The things that we Cadians are never in short supply. They may not be delicacies, but they are, quite frankly, the most nutritious and edible. Space Marines and Sisters of Battle have their versions of military food as well. However, it doesn't stop us from eating normal meals when we can, of course. Lastly, corpse starch. Need I say more? And when Mama said that there's a barbecue party, it meant that we would be eating normal food, not some bland rations or corpse starch. Thank you very much. As promised to Mama, I am one of the chefs running around and cooking up a storm. Although the barbecue party was Sergeant Johnson's idea, and he for sure knows how to BBQ, I am the one roasting the best cuts of meat so far. Other than me and Johnson, there are other barbecue stands, both large and small, that the Cadian Guards, Sisters of Battle, and even Space Marines are using to host a small festivity. All manner of meats and seafood are cooked on burning hot stoves, spices are used abundantly to enhance the roasted aroma, and drinks are passed around jovially. Of course, duties require that none of us get drunk, so there's only a limited quantity of musk, the Imperium's equivalent of wine, and Old Foys, which is beer. From a cursory glance, the people at the barbecue venue are mostly the personnel present in the initial foray into Battlestar Pegasus. This basically amounts to 3rd Platoon, Mama's unit of Sister of Battle, Chapter Master Tushan's Salamanders, and Mago's head Ajine's group of tech priests. Surprisingly, Colonel Mustahim is present with some of his command staff and the Kasrakan attached to the Cadian 8th. What I never expected was to see a few troopers from the famed Lucifer Black Regiment, evidenced by their black uniform and markings. As an entire regiment of Tempestus Scions or Stormtroopers, Lucifer Blacks are the guardians of the Imperial Palace on Terra. The chance of even one of them being deployed to Cadia is so abyssal that it may as well be void. Yet, here they are, thus lending credence to the rumors of an elite unit in black arriving at the Fortress World. Seeing the Lucifer Blacks here, I understand they are now a part of the Joint Task Force. It appears that the JTF will be a long-term investment by the Imperium. As for what purpose the JTF will ultimately serve, that remains to be seen. For now, I am more focused on cutting fine slabs of meat from a whole roasted grox, otherwise known as space cow or lizard cow. Of course, I dedicated the most tender and savory portion to Mama, placing it on a dish well decorated with tasty fried vegetables. It has to be said that the ingredients being supplied to the base of operations are always well preserved and fresh. This is a testament to the effort of the people in logistics, working day and night to bolster the morale and effectiveness of Cadian regiments. Nonetheless, due to the short notice of this barbecue party, I didn't have time to prepare or marinate the meat properly. My skill as a chef, given to me by the system, cries out in shame as I present subpar products to the dining table. Please enjoy, Mama. I still manage a smile, feeling proud as Mama is enticed by the food I cook. I then look at the rest sitting at the table. My apology, but can you help me bring over the dishes, Savory? Milord Tushan and Velkina, please excuse me for a bit as I bring over your portions. With an easy smile and crossed arms, the Salamander chapter master nods. Take your time, young one. We understand that our consumption can be a bit. Chief Librarian Velkina finishes the sentence. Too much to be carried in one go. The two Astartes are sitting on large durable rocks instead of chairs. That alone is a testament to their sheer body mass alongside that of their armor. I bow at them slightly, grateful for their understanding, before gesturing my head for Savory to follow me. Back at my barbecue station, I passed Savory the food I have prepared. Here is your portion, sis. I say, giving Savory a similar dish to Mama's, albeit this one is more chewy to conform to Savory's taste. And these are for the lords. Savory, thanks to her power armor, has no trouble balancing two large trays with a bevy of roasted meats and assortments. She then nods at me with a smile. You know, I don't think the salamanders will mind if you drop your formality. They already give you their permission, no? I shake my head dryly, carrying a large bowl of sauce as we make our way back to the dining table of the illustrious. Old habits die hard, sis. Hey. Savory smirks. Don't worry, you'll get used to their presence soon enough. The salamanders are the most amicable Astartes you will ever find. After setting up the table properly, I am just about to excuse myself to continue serving the other guests when Mama waves me over. Oh, come on, darling. Come here and relax with us for a bit. It's not like you're the only chef currently. Mama's suggestion is met by nods of agreement from the salamanders and Sister Savory. I glance back, seeing that Sergeant Johnson is boisterously running the kitchen and is teaching Vice some neat cooking tips leads me to believe that the other guests are well taken care of. So, I move to sit on the spot offered by Mama, which is basically in between her and Sister Savory. With care, Mama and Savory give me a spare plate and a portion of their food. To this loving gesture, I thank them with a smile. Being on the receiving end of their affection never ceases to melt my heart. Tushan and Velkina look at our interaction fondly, seemingly imprinting the scene into their minds as another important thing to safeguard against the darkness of the galaxy. Honestly, I can understand why they feel that way, having made such a resolution long ago. With a toast, 2 Salamander Space Marines, 2 Sisters of Battle, and a singular guardswoman seal the beginning of a more amicable network of relationships, one that is more personal than their prior work-related one. On the surface, this budding interbranch friendship seems small, possibly even inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. Yet, it's with these fledgling bonds that monumental things will be built on. One shouldn't discount the importance of camaraderie and unity in the Warhammer universe. Many miracles have come about because someone is willing to go all the way to aid their friends, brothers, and sisters. More practically, if I can curry a deep friendship with the Salamander chapter, I will have a much easier time surviving and thriving. It's selfish, but it has to be done, and I am grateful that Mama has given me such an opportunity. That said, when you look around, you can see that it's not only our table that is bonding over food and drinks. Tech Priests, Cadian 8th, Kasrikan, Lucifer Blacks, Sisters of Battle, and Space Marines. All are mingling amicably with one another, trading tales, anecdotes, and other topics with booze on one hand and a plate on the other. The scene is quite frankly mind-boggling if nothing short of a miracle crafted by the Emperor herself. Tell me, has there ever been a more harmonious gathering between so many people from so many different walks of life? Mind you, this is the Grimdark universe we are talking about here. Practically, this is a great opportunity to boost the JTF's cohesion. Yet, when thinking deeper, I have a sneaking suspicion that things won't be as peaceful after this barbecue party. I have read too much fiction in my past life to infer that this moment is the calm before the storm. Sigh, better enjoy whatever peaceful moments I have left before shits hit the fan. Things can change dramatically tomorrow. Having thought to this point, I participate cheerfully in mundane 40k topics with Mama, Savory, and the Salamanders. For a short while, I allow myself to just be a normal 16-year-old and let loose my curiosity about the Salamanders. To this, Chapter Master Tushan and Chief Librarian Velkina have taken it upon themselves to educate me about their Space Marine chapter. The stories they tell me and the insights they grant me in tactics and strategies are revealing, things that not even an avid Warhammer fan would be able to know. Mama and Sister Savory, seeing me now engrossed and at ease with everyone at the table, nod to themselves in relief. It's kind of them to worry about my off-duty life, really, and I am once more touched by their feelings. Indeed, it has been a wonderful idea to share my debuff immunity skill with them both, and I am eager to get my hand on other rewards from the system to empower them. It's a bit unfortunate that I am unable to get any good daily login rewards these days. Perhaps I should give Nikolai more cookies later when she is available? That said, I wonder just how effective debuff immunity is for the Emperor. Will she be able to recover from her internment on the Golden Throne, or has the damage inflicted by Horus proved too great? As a perpetual, the Emperor should normally be able to recover even from clinical death. Nonetheless, Horus managed to inflict upon her crippling wounds that remain for 10,000 years. From what I surmise, Horus must have inflicted a debuff so powerful that it disabled the Emperor's regeneration completely. Obviously, this could only have been a result of the ruinous power at work. If debuff immunity isn't enough to give the Emperor the required breathing room. Let's not think like that. Worst comes to worst, I will have to fish for more rewards from the daily logins and Nikolai's Gaka. Surely there's something out there that can rejuvenate the Emperor of mankind. My instinct fails me here as it decides not to tell me anything about the Emperor's condition. Chapter 24, A. What? Pardon my language, sir. I say with all the respect I can muster for Colonel Mustahim. But you want us to fucking do what? I even throw in a look of utter disbelief as if to ask whether or not my superior is right in the head. Colonel Mustahim of the Kadian 8th, instead of replying or feeling slighted by my disrespectful action, scratches his bald head before sighing. Reaching into his waist pocket, the colonel pulls out a coin before tossing it to my company captain. The captain grabs the embellished coin, worthing 10 thrones, with an insufferable smirk directed at Colonel Mustahim. Told ya even 3rd platoon would react like that. The captain says, gesturing his head toward my unit. Any Kadian with a sane mind will think that going us against the Emperor's angels will be nothing but the foolish and desperate of endeavor. True to what the captain said, it's not just me who is having an incredulous look after hearing the briefing Colonel Mustahim gave us. Sergeant Johnson, Scorpion, Vice, everyone. They are looking at Mustahim as if he's grown a second head. Believe it or not, a person with 2 heads is quite normal around this part of the galaxy. Although if you do see one, you better straight up turn that subject into ash. But that's beside the point. The thing is, 3rd platoon woke up just to be called in for a sudden meeting. At first, we thought that it would simply be the company captain assigning us some new tasks. Yet, when we came into the meeting room, we came to see the familiar faces of the entire JTF leadership, Colonel Mustahim, Chapter Master Tashan, Mama, and surprisingly even an Archmago's Dominus Call. All of them sported very interesting expressions, Dominus Call included, and it took 3rd platoon but a second to know that we were about to be involved in something troublesome. Our suspicion was proven true when Colonel Mustahim told us that we would go on to participate in a series of friendly bouts with the Salamander Space Marines. Joy. Back to the present, I can't help but massage my eyebrows, an action mirrored by Sergeant Johnson. Vice, sitting next to me, is sporting a very wry smile, but she strangely seems more at ease than the rest of us. For the most part, the meeting room is packed with other platoons present as they all turn to look at us with sympathetic expressions. Even the Kasrikan and Lucifer Black start offering us nods of encouragement. They have participated in their fair share of combat against the Astartes, so they know how tough of a challenge this will be, especially when 3rd platoon is just a normal guard platoon, not stormtroopers. Colonel Mustahim coughs lightly to steer the subject back on track. I understand that this is an unusual tasking, but we deem it a necessary step in preparation for the future. The colonel says. There's no telling what kind of enemy the 8th will face in its tenure with the JTF. So it's decided by us leaders to host regular spars between our branches of service. The first set of matches, both personal and team-based, will be conducted between the Kadian 8th and a Salamander chapter. With your 3rd platoon being chosen as the first of the 8th to go up against a squad of 6 Astartes, Sergeant Johnson. The colonel stops before continuing. Of the 24 companies in the 8th, 3rd platoon under 1st company has a stellar record. We have high hopes of you achieving good results. The colonel nods at our platoon in encouragement. Others in the command seats mirror Colonel Mustahim's action, with Mama and Chapter Master Tashan offering warm smiles as well. Nonetheless, it doesn't change the fact that, with respect, Colonel Johnson speaks up seriously. Even if we just got Vice as a rookie, 3rd platoon only has 24 boots on the ground. Counting the crews of our chimeras, we have 30, and that is if we're allowed to bring our chimeras into the bouts. Quite frankly, this is not a fair fight. Some may mistake Johnson's words as him chickening out, but the sergeant is just calmly stating a fact. Even if we had access to a Lehman Russ and advantageous terrain, it's doubtful we could defeat 6 salamanders. As expected, none of the leaders present is displeased with Johnson. In fact, it would be weird if Johnson didn't speak up about the unfairness of the upcoming spars. A single Astartes is worth 100 Imperial Guards on a favorable day. On a particularly bad day, an Astartes can slaughter 300 guards without bearing as much as a scratch. Chapter Master Tushan nods at 3rd Platoon. I understand your concern, but this unfairness is a calculated one. The objective of these bouts is to improve the efficiency of different JTF branches when facing overwhelming odds. Today, it will be 3rd Platoon against 6 of my battle brothers. Tomorrow, it will be my 6 brothers against 3 Cadian 8th companies. The results are ultimately not as important as the processes that were taken in these matchups. Mama leans in. The friendly battles will be conducted in simulated environments aboard the Iron Revenant. Archmago's Dominus Call has been kind enough to provide the JTF with the Revenant's suites of simulator for the matches. Each suite is large enough to host training for even the revered titans and is more than capable of simulating all manners of battlefield conditions. Dominus Belisarius Call nods as he gazes mechanically at 3rd Platoon. Non-lethal weapons will be supplied upon the Iron Revenant for both parties. Their ergonomics mirror that of their lethal counterparts, and the impacts they may have on the environment will be simulated accordingly in the matches. A Lucifer Black representative speak up in caution as well. Simulated as everything may be, accidents can still happen. A punch from an Astartes is sure to pulverize anything it touches. A slip from a simulated mountaintop can very well snap your bones. Getting electrocuted in a faux lake can still very well be an express ticket to see the Emperor. There are myriad ways things can go wrong, so set out into these matches as if you're fighting a real battle. That is my advice to you, 3rd Platoon. It's not just us 3rd Platoon that take the advice to heart, but others in the 8th as well. This challenge, abrupt as it may be, does allow everyone to shine and improve. To test their Cadian mettle against mighty individuals like the Salamanders is sheer honor and fortune. Any good guardsman and guardswoman will jump at this opportunity in the name of the Emperor. A sound defeat at the hand of the Emperor's angels can still be a mark of distinction, depending on how you see it. It is, however, a shameful display if they somehow perish in a simulated battle. That will bring nothing but dishonor to their entire extended unit. Mama smiles encouragingly. That said, there are benefits if you manage to impress us in your showing. For example, a priority can be made in giving the participants that pleasantly surprise us better equipment and weapons. A promotion may not be that far off as well if you demonstrate splendid quality in the name of the Emperor. Then comes Dominus Call, speaking in his raspy synthetic voice once more. The Mechanicus will be the main sponsor for these incentives, provided that you earn yourself the qualifications. The Dominus then adds. A transport will come down to transfer the participant aboard to the Iron Revenant. 3rd Platoon will have a day to pack their belongings. Additional briefings will be given once aboard the Arch Mechanicus. Finally, Colonel Mustahim adds. The battles will be broadcast to the rest of the JTF as research materials. It's also expected that, in a time when the JTF is still relatively idle, such friendly bouts will be a regular occurrence to foster experience and martial spirits. I expect that all of us will treat our opponents as not just respected rivals but also treasured comrades off the ring. Meeting dismissed. As 3rd Platoon and other Cadian 8th Guard stand out for a collective salute, I mentally let out a sigh. As I feared, things will only be hectic from here on out. At least the upcoming spar with the Salamander Space Marines will be an interesting one. However, I don't know whether or not any of the source materials have an event like this. Although with how expansive the 40K universe is, there should be at least a few such instances, right? As we start filing out of the meeting room, I am called back by Mama. Corporaline, a moment of your time, please. I stop, waving at Vice and Johnson to go ahead without me as I turn around. Mama is moving closer to me while the other leaders are busy talking to one another. Standing in front of me, Mama rests a gloved hand on top of my head caringly. My dear, are you nervous? Mama smiles softly as she gazes at me in concern. I let Mama pat my hair, knowing how she finds comfort in the action. The spars? Or going to space for the first time, Mama? Can't it be both? Mama raises an eyebrow. I nod slightly, replying with a small but confident smile. I admit there's a small part of me that is nervous. It will be the first time I do any of the two things, after all. And the bigger part? Mama asks gently, moving her hand from my hair to lift up my chin, allowing her to gaze into my eyes more clearly. I answer honestly, my eyes unwavering. Cautiously excited, Mama. Mama's smile turns into a proud grin when she sees my steadfastness. Good. In the upcoming spars, I can't help you. It will be through the effort of you and your platoon that you may see the hope of victory. The only advice that I can see being worth a damn in this situation is to give it your utmost. Do anything you can do to achieve success. Most importantly, don't ever give up when facing Astartes. I nod solemnly as Mama pats me a few times on the shoulder. Duly noted, Mama. I then say with a hand on my heart. As your daughter, I will do you proud. The seriousness with which I say my vow catches Mama slightly off guard. With the barest hint of a blush, Mama ruffles my hair lovingly. Have I ever told you how much I love you for showing such pure devotion to me? I giggle. All the time, Mama. Good. Mama grins. I will continue to do so in the future because you deserve to hear it many times over. Mama steps back a bit, scanning me from head to toe before nodding to herself. This is the first step to being a true warrior that can stand shoulder to shoulder with us, dear daughter. Succeed, and you will find there is little you can't overcome, as long as you have the good heart to do so. Now move along, that Thunderhawk will hate its passenger for being late. I snap a crisp salute, only when Mama nods at me to leave do I turn for the door. I feel emboldened by the wish Mama has left unspoken. While I understand why Mama and the rest have orchestrated the spars, the abruptness of which has caught me off guard. The issue with chaos infiltration on Kadia is still somewhat unresolved, left simmering until a breakthrough can be made. For the JTF to conduct a martial tournament right now seems out of place. Still, Mama and the leaders must have their own reasoning. It doesn't change the fact that I am fully intent on keeping my promise to Mama though. While I am not brass enough to call upon my supernatural power, I will not shy away from using all my mental faculty and all my physical ability. Win or lose, 3rd Platoon will make our mark on the Salamanders. Chapter 25, Working out the loadout. The transit from the surface of Kadia to the Arc Mechanicus Iron Revenant is a relatively simple affair. A shuttle, which is basically just 2 iron boxes strapped to multiple engines, lands on the base of operations airfield. After offloading new armaments and equipment, the shuttle promptly takes us 3rd Platoon and some Kadian 8th elements into space. The Order of our Martyred Lady and a Salamander chapter ride on their own Thunderhawks. Before anyone asks, Mama's Sisters of Battle receive a few Thunderhawks because of their affiliation with the JTF. This way, the sisters don't have to hitch a ride with the Salamanders whenever they need to go somewhere quickly. That aside, the journey is honestly pretty darn lackluster. Why? Well, you can't see anything outside the shuttle, for once. There's no viewing port in the cargo holds of the shuttle, which is where we Kadians linger on the surprisingly long flight to the Iron Revenant. Good old space movies may show that sublight travel from the ground to orbit is swift and straightforward. Yet, in actuality, it takes us 2 hours to fly through the void before the shuttle finally lands in one of the many hangars of the Iron Revenant. There, we are quickly shuffled into a waiting room. Although it's called a waiting room, it's more apartment to describe it as a multi-function quarter. It's large enough to host half a military company and fitted with a kitted-out Kadian guard armory and the necessary amenities, save for an actual bunk area. As expected of the Adeptus Mechanicus, cramming everything into one common area for efficiency. That said, it's easy to understand why there's a need for such a well-furnished waiting room. One of the simulated arenas is a mere walk down a huge corridor, and a readily available waiting room can act as both a briefing area and a pit stop for gearing up. It's a fact that we of the 3rd Platoon fully intend to utilize to the fullest. However, we're screwed. I promptly say while eyeing the other 23 members of 3rd Platoon sitting or standing in a loose circle around a bunch of weapon boxes. Though we haven't received much intel on what to expect of the upcoming spar, we do know that we can't bring our chimeras. This time around, our vehicle crews will be sitting out on the sideline. Yup. Scorpion, who is sitting in between her 2 girlfriends with crossed arms, comments wisely. We're boned. Scratch that. Sergeant Johnson interjects while chewing on his cheap cigar. We're fucked. Collectively, all of us hang our heads low, sighing deeply. Understandably, the prospect of coming up against actualist hearts in as far is still a morale-dampening one. It's true that we are still cautiously excited about the challenge, but having seen how the Salamanders fight and carry themselves. Seriously, I can understand why many call them angels and demigods. Spatting out the butt of his cigar before stamping on it with a foot, Johnson cuts straight to the point. No point in moping around, boys and girls. Now that we're here, we can't display our sorry asses to everyone else, eh? Some of us nod at Johnson's words, me included. It takes the blink of an eye for our prior exasperated expressions to give way to casual professionalism. Contradictory? Maybe. 3rd Platoon is just built and shaped differently like that. To start us off, it's Vice that tentatively raises a hand. Do we actually know what we will be getting into? For the most part, no. Johnson sighs while scratching his head in annoyance. Apparently, we only know that our singular objective is to survive until an extraction can come. Simple, and straight to the point. The catch is, we have no idea when that extraction ride will come if there's even any. Similarly, we have no intel on the battlefield layout or weather effects. The only true upside is that we will have a full day or two to prep inside the arena. Other than that, the 6 Salamander Space Marines are only allowed to carry their standard issue bolt rifles and pistols, alongside whatever melee weapon they fancy. Vice and some of my platoon mates raise their eyebrows. No flamer, or whatever the non-lethal equivalent of it. Johnson shrugs. Apparently the tech priests haven't come up with any way to make a flamer non-lethal. Stun beams and shock rounds, they sure can make them. However, a flamer that doesn't kill is way above what they can handle. That somehow feels right and wrong at the same time. Vice comments with a weirded-out expression. I, however, latch onto what Johnson said earlier. 1 or 2 days? My sergeant explains with a troubled expression. To simulate the unforgiving nature of the battlefield, the Salamander's arrival is at a random point in time. We will at least have a day to prep, but after that 24 hours, some of us will have to play sentry duty. I did confirm that there will be an announcement of sorts before the Salamander's appearance. Huh. That's the only thing I can say regarding that bit of information. Johnson shrugs at that before glancing at the rest of the platoon. Alright people, brainstorm session. What should we bring to combat 6 super soldiers that can body check a chimera unscathed? Do note that we have no idea what the terrains will be. We all have seen a Salamander Space Marine in action. I speak up first. They embody the pinnacle of physical prowess and battle acumen. No walls that we can make are insurmountable to them. Scorpion nods. I get what you mean, Ein. We basically can't bring anything too heavy. Vice seems puzzled at this. Seeing her confusion, I helpfully explain. The Salamanders favor mobility and close-range action. Although that doesn't mean they are not good in other areas, it does mean that if we employ a static weapon emplacement, it will promptly be outflanked, Scorpion adds. Anything we bring will have to be portable and concealable. That leaves heavy bolters and mortars as our only options for crew-served weapons. Humming in agreement, Johnson says. Yeah, they are usable in pretty much all environments. Versatile too, as a heavy bolter and mortars can make for a good ambush or a defensive engagement. When shit hits the fan, you can throw a mortar round as a frag grenade or fire a heavy bolter from the hip. I smirk. Speaking from experience, Sergeant? To this, Johnson flexes his biceps. Scorpion laughs before looking at our rookie. In case you didn't know, Vice. Johnson here rushed down his smuggler hideout with a heavy bolter and ruined everyone's day. Purest adrenaline shot I've ever taken back then. Johnson adds his own comment, much to Vice's apparent awe. Anyway. I wave my hand to get everyone's attention. Let's say we can set up a crossfire with heavy bolters and mortars, they alone won't be enough to knock out the Salamanders. By the way, this is me working on the assumption that we are forced to fight an engagement. But yeah, we need something more powerful while keeping us at range as well. A member of the Special Weapons Squad chimes in. I am pretty sure a Salamander can snipe a grenade out of the air, so I don't think a grenade launcher is the way to go. We can eliminate the melt gun as an option as well. One of Scorpion's girlfriends comments. Being too close to the Salamanders is a dead sentence. I nod. Then that leaves the plasma gun. Temperamental as they can be, they offer a balance between range and firepower. Ideally, we can pin the Salamanders down by the heavy bolters, leaving them vulnerable to mortar and plasma fire. Sergeant Johnson adds promptly. Of course, we are all working on the most ideal of circumstances here. I sigh, understanding his point. Concentrating all of our firepower in one place means there's a higher chance of us being wiped out unceremoniously in one go. The objective is to survive till extraction. So, in theory, splitting up means we will have a better chance of weathering the Salamanders. Vice makes a no sound before continuing on to say. If one group is eliminated, then the other groups can keep on running. That is if we are running. Depending on the terrain, it might be better to just dig in. Yup. I nod. However, as a rule of thumb, I suggest dialing your las rifle to take more charges per shot. Leave the suppression fire to the heavy bolters. In this circumstance, a powerful laser beam is more useful than many minor ones that may not even register on the damage calculation system that the tech priests cook up. Non-lethal as they may be, our rifles have twister modules installed. The arena will emulate the damage accordingly, and a lucky hit may very well win us this spar. Johnson offers his 2 cents. The rest of 3rd Platoon nod, taking the advice seriously. I hum, looking around and pondering if there's anything more to add on my end. Ultimately, my vision lands on Vice and lingers there. The rookie, puzzled by my attention, tilts her head in confusion. Thinking up something, I raise my hand to say. This time around, I think I will break out the long loss. The added power from it may actually allow me to score a clean hit. Other than that, it may also be prudent of us to carry along a sizable quantity of explosives. Johnson's eyes light up in realization. You want to create traps? Pretty much, or we can use the explosives for demo works if the circumstances require it. I don't know how accurate the battle arena's simulations are, but we can't go wrong with having some melta-bombs on hands. Johnson nods seriously. Sounds like a plan. We will have to raid the armory of this place and see what they have. By the way, before any of us forget, see if you can find a suppressor or multiple. I can hazard a guess that Ayn has a dastardly plan with her long loss. A suppressor will help in that endeavor of her. I smile, giving Johnson a thumbs up. Thanks, Sarge. Chapter 26, Setting up shop after a flash of myriad colors light, I, alongside the rest of 3rd Platoon, find ourselves in the middle of a deserted square. Looking around warily, it's quickly determined that we're in an urban setting, one that has been at the mercy of Mother Nature for quite some time. Abandoned cars, moss-covered walls, bombed streets. It seems to me that we got sent to an old battlefield. Scorpion comments while hefting a plasma gun slightly bigger than her usual grenade launcher. Sergeant Johnson hums. That seems to be the case. Depending on how realistic this emulated arena is, there may be something we can salvage to bolster our firepower. Fingers crossed that's the case. Scorpion adds before looking around. Now what? We scout and make a game plan. We can't run for shit against the salamanders. However, an urban setting like this one can provide us with an opportunity to dig in or hide. Johnson answers while taking a look at his data slate for the updated mission briefing. Extraction will come via air, provided that we can last until they arrive. The ETA on that bird is nebulous at best, so don't count on it. Best we do this with a last stand spirit. Looking at Vice and I, Johnson orders. Ein, rookie. He then points at a half-destroyed tower, presumably used to be an administrator building. Get up there and get some bird-eye view for us. We don't have a sensor skull, so we have to do this the old-fashioned way. Help us get the lay of the land and see if you can find any defensible location. The rest of you, follow me. Let's see if we can't find anything good around these parts. Roger that, Sarge. I reply, giving him a 2-finger salute before turning to Vice. I hope you practice your cardio because we may have to climb a few flights of stairs. Vice readjusts her helmet, staring at the towering building off in the distance. This will be annoying as heck. I giggle at the complaint. Sergeant Johnson adds one last set of instructions before we part into one large group and a small team. Okay, people. Keep your interval wide, your eyes opened, and your asses covered. Let's move. Vice and I start jogging to the dilapidated tower while Johnson leads the rest of 3rd Platoon to scour the scenes of battle around them. If Johnson manages to grab anything useful, he will call it out on Vox. For the most part, the journey to the bombed administrator tower is uneventful, albeit slightly annoying as we have to maneuver around cratered streets. In doing so, however, I am made to notice the heftiness of the long loss I am carrying. Heavier and longer than my usual las rifle. The only reason why I pick a long loss is due to its improved armor penetration capability. I have tested it before. In exchange for costing more energy per shot, a supercharged beam from a long loss is nearly as powerful, if not on par with a Hellgun. There are cases of Chaos Space Marines being cut in half by well-placed bursts from Hellguns used by Tempestus Scion units. If I use my long loss correctly, I should be able to achieve similar effects. Still. I turn to give Vice a side glance through the tinted visor of my helmet. Much like myself, Vice has no trouble navigating the treacherous terrains of loose dirt, cracking pavements, and jagged rocks and pointy rebars. In fact, she can easily make headways over me due to her taller physique. However, she remains perfectly content with sticking near me, and not away from me. For the past few days, I have been paying more attention to this rookie and battle buddy of mine. Because of that, it's not that hard for me to decipher the meanings behind the actions Vice took when it comes to me. More than a battle buddy, she acts like I am a VIP for her to protect. Whenever my safety is at potential risk, Vice displays an unnatural attentiveness and willingness to take a shot in my stead. The way she subtly moves to block my body from potential sniper locations, the way she scans for traps and ambushes when we patrol alone. Or the way she shadows me whenever she can without incurring my suspicion or displeasure. Vice is legitimately acting as an undercover bodyguard for me alone. As for why this is the case, I legitimately have no idea. However, my instinct is pegging me that this could be Mama's doing and that Vice is sincere in her actions. It could be that due to my increasing attachment to the Imperial Guard, Mama fears for my safety, so she subtly arranged a protector, Vice, for me. As far-fetched as that may sound, one shouldn't underestimate the means and feelings of a caring mother. If it's true that this is Mama's doing, then I will gladly accept it with open arms. What? Do you think I would turn down such a willing bodyguard? While it may sound bad, having Vice means that whenever shit hits the fan, I stand a higher chance at survival. Of course, it doesn't mean I will readily sacrifice Vice, I'm not that heartless. It only means I have more firepower at my disposal, and all fears come from insufficient firepower. As for Vice's true identity, her distinct footwork gave it away long ago. When I first saw the Lucifer Blacks and the way they carried themselves, I came to realize just how similar they are to my Vice. Hailing from the Blacks, Vice tries to mask her elite skills to blend in with 3rd Platoon. However, those very skills have been so deeply ingrained that it's much harder and noticeably unnatural to hide them. Still, other than me, it's only Johnson who thinks Vice is more than who she presented herself to be. The reason why Johnson hasn't said anything yet is probably because Vice hasn't done anything truly worrisome. Nonetheless, Vice heritage as a Lucifer Black does a great deal to assuage some of the fear I have for the future. Other than the Custodes and Astartes, Lucifer Blacks are the best bodyguards you can ever ask for. I wonder what sorts of strings Mama or someone has to pull to get one assigned to me. Of course, I can be wrong about everything. It may have been me overthinking things and that Vice is just Vice, not a Black. It does change nothing about our circumstances. So long as Vice plays her role as my battle buddy well, I have nothing to complain about, nor will I pry open her hidden nature. Vice does not deserve a Spanish Inquisition, after all. 1-to-1, this is 3-to-1. I speak through the Platoon Vox channel. We've secured the tower. Quite frankly, we don't see many places that can be used as long-term holdouts from here. Nothing that can withstand Astartes, at least. I then turn to look at Vice, who is looking through her magniculars. Vice spotted an abandoned Astra Militarum motor pool due east of your locations. Should be a few blocks out. There are some vehicles there if you want to check, see if any of them still work, Sarge. 1-to-1, copy all. Comes the voice of Johnson through the Vox channel. I will lead first squad to scout out the motor pool. 2-to-1 will reconvene with you at the base of the tower. By the look of it, we will have to fortify the tower area, using its high ground to help level the playing field. The Salamanders will no doubt understand the tactical advantage of this tower, Sarge. I recommend. Vice and I can help second squad set up choke points and traps while you secure the motor pool. I can feel Johnson nods from the other end. We will proceed as you said, Corporal. Pick the prime real estate to welcome our guests. Affirm, Sarge. Over and out. I tune out of the Vox channel, turning my body to pat Vice on the shoulder. Vice, help me deploy some ropes so the others can use their ascenders to get up here quickly. All right. Vice nods, putting away her magniculars. Where should we place them? I point to the railings that face the inner courtyard of this tower instead of externally. There, just so that we can go up and down swiftly and out of sight if the salamander surrounded this building. Good idea. Vice replies while moving to remove some rappelling ropes from my backpack. Together, Vice and I set up 4 rappelling lines that run from our current floor down to the ground floor. Since the building is unstable on the highermost floors, we can only garrison up to the 27th floor of the tower. The 27th floor is tall enough to offer us a good view of most of the simulated city. However, if a salamander wills it, he or she can bulldoze through the floors at lightning speed. When that happens, it very much is game over for us. Hence, keeping the salamanders out of CQC distance will be very much preferable for 3rd Platoon. It's why after we set up the repelling lines, Vice and I use them to descend and reconvene with Scorpion's Special Weapon Squad. On the ground level, we came to see Scorpion and her squad hauling behind them sleds carrying what can only be described as non-lethal promethium and other assortments of stuff that can be made into explosives. Like, I am not joking about the non-lethal fuel part. The names plastered onto the side of the stuff have the word non-lethal in bold. Some tech priests must have had too much time on their hands and made these as a joke. Otherwise, how else do you explain materials for improvised explosive devices being non-lethal? These are all that you could find? I ask, crouching down to pick up a bag of, you guessed it, fertilizer. We got away with what we could, anything more than we would need a vehicle. There's still a whole warehouse of this stuff nearby. Scorpion explains, looking back at the direction where she and her squad came from. A whole warehouse of volatile materials, you say. I hum, my eyes glinting as I gaze at the warehouse out of sight. Vice chimes in. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? I smirk. If you're thinking about the fact that we have a massive bomb just waiting to be made, then yes, dear Vice. I then gesture at the sleds carrying the bomb-making materials. These alone can be made either into one big boom or many smaller ones. That warehouse Scorpion raided though, can be a real surprise if we play our cards correctly. For now, I suggest the second squad set up shop first. If possible, use controlled demolitions to set up kill zones and blockades. Scorpion gives a thumbs up. Piece of cake, darling. Come on, boys and girls. Let's get down to brass tacks and get a defense perimeter up and running. Having said that, Scorpion leads her special weapons squad to start fortifying our location. In the meantime, I have Vice put away the bomb materials for immediate utilization while I communicate with Sergeant Johnson. Sarge, you have anything good on that side? The motor pool does have some stuff, Ein. Johnson replies. A few vehicles, unarmed but armored. We're thinking of nabbing them all to act as another layer of protection. Any cargo hauler, sir? I ask. A stripped-down centaur. What do you need? I need a bunch of material transport from the nearby city warehouse that second squad just hit. Promethium, fertilizer, wheat flour. Oh, and see if you can find plates or dishes of ductile metal. Copper or iron will work. Knowing my resourcefulness, Johnson immediately replies. Consider it done. How big of a boom you'll be making? Just enough to be an annoyance, Sarge. And although I highly doubt the salamanders will make it easy for us, I do want to prepare a certain safety net, just in case. You have my attention, Ein. Johnson replies, interested. Over on the other end, I can hear the rumbling of vehicles being started. I smirk before disseminating my stupid plan to Johnson. Whether it works or not remains to be seen, but at least we will be doing everything we can to clinch a victory. Chapter 27, Emperor Protects. Alrighty then. How can one deal with Astartes, the Imperium's finest transhuman existence? Obviously, a contest of strength is out the window. One can't hope to survive a walking tank that can solo an entire Imperial Guard company and maybe even live to tell the tale. To make matters even worse for us, most people tend to forget that these walking tanks are outfitted with the best sensor suites, built-in into their armor. These built-in scanners enhance the Astartes' already impressive sensory abilities, which are more than capable of echolocation and staring down at a flashbang without any issue. It's near impossible for a normal guardsman to approach an Astartes undetected, much less throw fisticuffs at one. Near impossible is not impossible, however. And as mighty as they are, Space Marines aren't undefeatable. These are the two truths that I have been drilling into the heads of my platoon. Of course, to an Inquisitor, these thoughts are borderline heretical and shall be purged. However, this is our way of showing respect to the challenge, the spectators outside the simulated arena, and our soon-to-be opponents. And, as any good underdog would do, we make it perfectly clear that we won't be taking a salamander's punch head-on. Oh, no. We will prepare. We will plan. We will scheme. Pretty darn sure that the current spirit of 3rd Platoon would make a certain Kane proud. Speaking of that certain commissar, I wonder what the hero of the Imperium is doing. He should be at least a century and a half old by now, right? Shaking my head to clear out the stray thoughts, I clap my hands together before starting my work and making a whole bunch of improvised explosive devices. What? Do you have a problem with that, mate? Have you seen where we are? Dense urban setting, dilapidated streets and houses, messy environment. This is a perfect setup to pull something at the same level if not beyond that of Vietnam and Afghanistan in my old universe. Booby traps and IDs, wonderful stuff, and quite thankfully not something outlawed by the Imperium. If I had more materials, I would have 3rd Platoon make the best of our grace period and rig the whole bloody simulated city to blow. And no, this is me without injecting recough. Imagine what sort of marvel I could have done with but a whiff of caffeine. Alas, it's not meant to be, as Vice has been monitoring my recough intake lately, much to my chagrin. With Scorpion and Johnson in the mix, I swiftly gathered a sizable amount of chemical ingredients and whatever scraps I needed to cook up a whole lot of IDs, enough to blow up the tower we set up in and a few city blocks surrounding it. If those aren't enough still, we can make another trip back to the warehouse where Scorpion looted the ingredients. However, when dealing with Space Marines, the size and scale of the blast ain't matter all that much. A Space Marine is a walking tank, that isn't just an exaggerated comparison. They really are armored like a tank, which means common anti-personnel explosives won't be enough to cut it. To bypass their power armor's protection, we will need actual anti-tank weapons, hence our plasma guns and melta-charges. To make my IDs effective against armored targets, however, I will have to outfit them to be explosively formed penetrators or directionally focused charges. An explosively formed penetrator is a special type of shaped charge designed to penetrate armor effectively, from a much greater standoff range than standard shaped charges, which are more limited by standoff distance. As the name suggests, the effect of the explosive charge is to deform a metal plate into a slug or rod shape and accelerate it toward a target. A conventional shaped charge generally has a conical metal liner that is forced by an explosive blast into a hypervelocity jet of superplastic metal able to penetrate thick armor and knock out vehicles. A disadvantage of this arrangement is that the jet of metal loses effectiveness the further it travels, as it breaks up into disconnected particles that drift out of alignment. An EFP operates on the same principle, but its liner is designed to form a distinct projectile that will maintain its shape, permitting it to penetrate armor at a greater distance. The dish-shaped liner of an EFP can generate several distinct projectile forms, depending on the shape of the plate and how the explosive is detonated. However, EFP's penetration is more strongly affected by the density of its liner metal compared to a conventional shaped charge. An EFP with a tantalum liner can typically penetrate steel armor of a thickness equal to its diameter, or half that amount with a copper liner instead. By contrast, a conventional shaped charge can penetrate armor up to 6 times its diameter in thickness, depending on its design and liner material. Although they're lacking in effectiveness compared to any other option, IDs in the form of EFPs offer a certain degree of subterfuge. A thing that a rocket launcher sure can't achieve well under the scrutiny of multiple Astartes. While an EFP may not knock out a salamander outright, a well-timed and well-hidden one can still cause no small trouble for any of them. Things like disability hit or damaged equipment is what I am aiming for. A directionally focused charge, on the other hand, is very similar to EFP, with the main difference being that the top plate is usually flat and not concave. The plate is also made from cheaper cast or cut metal. When made for fragmentation, the contents of the charge are usually nuts, bolts, ball bearings, and other similar shrapnel products and explosives. If it only consists of the flat metal plate, it is known as a platter charge, serving a similar role as an EFP with reduced effect but easier construction. Being much simpler in the design, I can fabricate more of them. That said, just me alone isn't gonna cut it if I want to produce any of these things in a large quantity. A one-day period isn't quite enough to both make and hide them all over our line. It's why I rope in Scorpion and her girlfriends as well, having them help me make the IDs while Vice and the rest go about deploying and camouflaging them. Knowing Johnson's ingenuity and Vice's keen mind, I can't trust them to make the best out of the IDs and our limited quantities of military explosives. As for how to make an ID. An ID has 5 components: a switch, activator, an initiator, fuse, a container, body, a charge, explosive, and a power source, battery. However, a battery is optional and is dependent on whether or not you want to remotely detonate your ID. For the most part, my bomb crew only makes a few of these remotely detonated IDs, opting to build a bunch of mine-type DFPs and DFCs instead. The remote-controlled IDs, however, are made to be a true high-explosive menace for disruption purposes and to facilitate our ambush attack. To further the lethality in some of our IDs, I wire multiple of them in a daisy chain. The idea is for these daisy chains to be spread out along a roadway and hopefully catch multiple salamanders in their combined blast radius. Unsurprisingly, one can see that I am a bit too passionate about making all sorts of explosives. There's even a quite positively dangerous smile as I pull out all the stops in my anarchist cookbook. Explosion is an art, in my opinion, and I take to the task of fabricating numerous IDs with a zeal that far surpasses that of Scorpion and her girlfriends. While Scorpion may be our special weapons specialist, her enthusiasm when handcrafting bombs still pale when compared to mine. Understandably, my eagerness to get things ready to blow has earned me a few deadpan looks from the trio already. Apparently, some of my ideas in bomb making have been, quite frankly, mind-blowing to them, especially when I instruct Vice and Johnson on how to best camouflage the IDs to be mundane trash on the road. I can only hazard a guess as to what expressions Mama and the spectators outside are having. Moving on, when the trio and I are done with our explosive task and hand over the last of our finished product to Johnson and his squad, do you know what we're going to do next? Hee, a cosmic cookie to you if you guess that. We're going to turn that warehouse with all those chemical ingredients and fertilizer into one big explosive trap. The whole warehouse may not become a bomb, really, it's more like we will offload its entire storage so that we can make a big freaking bomb, but you get the idea. I can promise that the end result will be a surprise to be sure, but it'll be a welcome one. I can't wait till the Astartes came to see the Matrix of Pain 3rd Platoon has invented just for them. Getting up close and personal will be the last thing the salamanders want to do in this spar between us. I can feel myself getting all giddy for the near future, and I wish I could see the look on the salamander space marines when the time comes. Sometimes, my genius is. It's almost frightening. Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right. Why am I all energetic when I didn't even drink a sip of Rikov, huh? I then start tracking my hyperactive brain over what could have kicked me into overdrive, only for it to grind to a halt at a specific memory. Mama fed me a rare pastry, a piece of cake. It has a distinct hint of coffee beneath its cheesy and sweet taste. Yeah, that tracks. This may trigger someone, but should I shout Emperor protects when I detonate an eye beneath a salamander's foot? Asking online for a friend, awaiting opinions. Chapter 28, First Blood. A salamander thunderhawk lands in one of the many hangar bays of the Iron Revenant. As its main ramp is lowered, those who disembark are part of the Salamander Chapter's elite first company. Having just finished up a chaos extermination mission plan outside, the 6 Astartes still bear the blood of traitorous cultists when they're greeted by their chapter master, Brother Tashan. The squad leader of this group of elite space marines greets. Brother Turak, Tushan warmly replies as both towering Astartes shake hands before bumping their shoulder pauldron together in a brotherly manner. Judging from your confident gait, I presume that the mission has been completed successfully. Sergeant Urok nods jovially. And without much trouble at all, brother. If you ignore the destruction of a whole building block, that is. Tushan raises an eyebrow before panning his gaze over the 6 Astartes of the Salamander's first company, draped in its trademark cloaks of salamander hide. His eyes soon rested on a fellow Astartes, one who acts sheepish and looks away. Ah, it would seem that Brother Vre has once more caused some property damage. Tushan comments, used to this particular battle Brother's penchant for overkill. Turok spares his compatriot a glance before saying. That is putting it mildly, brother. The salamanders laugh warmly when the Astartes in question huffs after being called out for his wanton use of firebombs. Tushan allows a brief moment of camaraderie before stating. I am glad that you all are still so spirited. I hope that energy of yours is ready to be directed for the spar ahead. Turok smacks his breastplate. But of course, Karak's squad is ready and raring to meet blades with Arcadian friends. The other 5 members of Urok's squad also mirror his actions. All of them treat this upcoming spar as seriously as any true combat mission and hope to learn more from it. The down-to-earth and empathetic nature that the Salamanders are best known for is not lost in these elite space marines of the Firedrake Company. Splendid. Tushan nods amicably. I am glad you all see the Cadians as a fitting challenge to overcome. I can't spoil anything, but even I have been surprised by what I've seen so far since yesterday. As your chapter master, I advise you all to always be on the alert. Otherwise, you will be caught lacking in the claws Soarum. Duly noted, chapter master. Turok and his Astartes seriously reply. Permission to go and prepare ourselves for the spar, chapter master? Tushan grunts an affirmative. Follow our serf, he will bring you to the waiting room. There, you can clean your armor and update your arsenal to use non-lethal weaponry. Then we'll go on ahead, brother. Turok nods before leading his Karak squad away to follow a waiting salamander serf. Tushan stands there, gazing at their departing backs among the bustling hangar bay of the Iron Rivulet. The chapter master's red eyes shine a red glint as he ponders. Surprisingly, it's hard for me to figure out who will be the final victor. From what I have seen so far, even the Firedrakes with my warnings may not come out of this spar unscathed. Are all Cadians so resourceful and scheming these days, or it's just 3rd Platoon and the 8th Regiment? Whatever the result will be, it does promise a majestic spectacle, to be sure. The spar officially starts unceremoniously after a concise system announcement. Karak's squad of the Salamander's first company then appears in the middle of the abandoned streets of the simulated city. Behind them, a doorway fades into the simulated background as the Astartes scan the battle zone warily. It's quiet. Vra, the salamander with a penchant for blowing stuff up whispers succinctly. You don't say, brother. Sergeant Urok comments. Vra, Valmer, you two cover our flanks. Teller, you take point. We'll venture deeper into the city and see if we can find traces of the Cadians. Expect an ambush in the shadow, salamanders. Nodding silently, Karak's squad forms a triangular formation as they move from the city's outskirt, which is also the arena's border, and into the city proper. Along the way, Turok warns. Be careful of that tower and stay out of its sight. If the Cadians are smart, they will post snipers up there. Best we assume that we had been spotted the moment we arrived. Vra, the squad's demolition expert, adds. We haven't had the honor of teaming up with this 3rd Platoon before, but I heard from our brothers in the 2nd Company that they are quite masterful at their jobs. One of them is famed for her long-range accuracy as well as the entire platoon being unflinching in the face of danger. Turok hums. I gathered much of the same about them. Since we only have standard bolt rifles and bolt pistols, we must force them in a close quarter fight and nullify their range accuracy. Another salamander asks. Given their strength, the Cadians are probably set up in or around that tower as well. They may seek to pin us down at the perimeter so that their snipers may pick us off, brother. A fair assumption, Valmer. Turok replies. The Cadians will no doubt have heavy weapons. A frontal assault may be costly, even for us. To this, we shall have 4 of us attracting our opponent's attention, while the remaining 2 take the flank and blitz their position when contact is made. Simple, but effective. Vera comments before shrugging. Unfortunately, we don't have any grenades available. It kills all the fun. Even if we have access to non-lethal throwable, I will not send you as part of the flanking force, Vra. Turok looks at the happy-go-lucky Astartes chidingly. I am rightfully worried that you will somehow collapse the buildings on top of the Cadians' heads. Safety net or not, I fear that some can still perish because of you. Vra only offers an infuriating smirk in return. However, their banter is cut short when their point man, Teller, raises a fist in warning. Stop. All at once, The entire units take cover with their bolters pointing around in a complete circle. What's ahead of Karak Squad is a bustling intersection, now littered with vehicle wrecks and trash. Churok says with a level tone. Teller, reports. The point man, tucking his body behind an alleyway, answers. Suspicious object near the middle of the road, Sergeant. Although it's covered up by debris, I know a melt-a-charge when I see one. A mine? Vra asks the question that's prevalent on everyone's minds. Or is it a remotely detonated explosive? I see no tripwire whether it's laser or physical. Teller reports. Vra comments. So it's either proximity trigger, pressure plate trigger, or there's an observer hiding somewhere. Our best bet is to still step back and blow it up with a bolt round. Churok heads. Get back 20 steps, salamanders. We're currently out of view of that tower, so if there's an enemy observer, they must be close. Keep an eye out on your aspects. As the salamanders warily retreat backward, it's Vra who detects an anomaly before taking cover by an alleyway. Sergeant, I think I got something. Report. Churok demands while tucking his body behind a destroyed truck of sorts. From my location, bearing 47, there's a 3-storied building. It overlooks most of the intersections and my Auspex detects an anomalous signature on the 3rd floor. It could be our hostile observer. However, I have lost line of sight with them. And we didn't detect it earlier, Teller? Churok questions the point man. My apology, Sergeant. It's very hard to see, brother, as they could have been hiding. They probably poke out to check whether or not we are near their trap. Should we pick a different route? Making a split-second decision, Churok commands. The other routes leading to the tower could be mined as well. Against us, mines are one of the few ways the Cadians can engage us without putting themselves in the crossfire. Vra, you know where the anomaly is, take Valmer with you to clear out the building. We will blow up the melt-a-charge over here to distract them for you. Nodding, Vra says. Understood. Valmer, with me. As both start stashes into the crisscrossing alleyways, Churok takes aim at the hidden melt-a-charge far ahead of them. Tell me when you're ready, Vra. Give me 5 seconds, brother. Humming to himself, Churok counts from 5 to 0 before pulling the trigger. Right afterward, a bolt round is spat out of his bolter with a resounding bang. It flies and impacts the melt-a-charge beneath its camouflage hover. Near immediately, a bright explosion appears in the middle of the deserted streets. Simulated as it may be, the explosion is still attention-grabbing and does cause some environmental damage, thus creating a suitable cover for Vra and Valmer to storm into the suspicious building. They're on the 3rd floor. Let's go. Vra barks as he and Valmer dash up the stairs that can barely hold their weights. As they race up the stairs, the pair of Astartes can hear the thumping heartbeats and footsteps of the unknown Cadian. Knowing that their opponent is just 1 floor above them, Vra is spurned to crash charge up through the doorway separating him from his target. The charge causes wood splinters to fly everywhere as Vra steps onto the top floor, his bolter raised in the direction of the heartbeats that he and Valmer have been hearing. That unknown Cadian, however, is seen moments away from zip-lining down to the ground. Vra could have taken a clean shot at him if not for his armored boot tripping over a very thin wire while also stepping over a loose piece of tile. The last thing Vra can register before 2 explosions are set off is the Cadian's infuriating smirk. Afterward, 2 explosively formed projectiles attack Vra's right foot, one coming directly beneath his armored boot while another coming from a wire trap hidden behind the doorway. Vra grunts as the projectiles impact his leg with enough force to cause him to stumble over. Annoyingly, the damage he takes from the 2 pieces of metal is enough for the simulated arena to denote that his right leg is now effectively too impaired to use. If this was a real battle, the EFP coming from below him would have taken out half of his foot altogether. Most frustrating, however, is that both he and Valmer miss the opportunity to take out the Cadian. The brave guardsman has successfully stared down 2 Astartes before ziplining down and away from their building. Before Valmer can even think of pursuing or helping Vra up from his inelegant crouch, however, the demolition expert Astartes notice scary details. First, is that the 3rd floor that they're on has a direct line of sight with the tower. Second, there's a backpack resting against the wall to Valmer's and Vra's left, the part where the Cadian earlier used to spy on the intersection. Third, that very backpack is large enough to hold a melta-charge and is in the line of fire from any sniper stationed on the tower. At this point, Vra can't help but curse his own carelessness. Valmer. Jumping with his left foot, Vra pushes Valmer out of the window on the opposite side of the backpack. As Vra falls to the floor due to his bad posture and Valmer is flung off the building in puzzlement, a non-visible beam of laser hits the unassuming backpack. Just as Vra fears, the backpack does contain a melta-charge that goes off nearly instantly and bathes Vra's whole armored form in its cleansing light. While it does not harm him really, it still locks Vra's power armor up and drops him straight down to the ground floor with a big thump. For a split moment, Vra's faceplate kisses the ruble, leaving behind a space marine hole in the dusty concrete. Bloody Grox is stirred. Couldn't these tech priests not lock my armor? Vra curses, wanting to bang his head against a wall for being taken out in his own area of expertise. To Vra, it's like someone gives him a middle finger and he has to accept it with a sulk. That said, the Astartes must admit. Well played, Cadian. Well played. First blood. Vra of the Salamander, eliminated. Relocating away from where I just took a shot that clinched us the first kill, I breathe out. Well, that's one hurdle dealt with. On to the next. Vice, trailing right behind me, comments. From the start, you were aiming for the flankers, haven't you? That's right. I reply with a smile. In this particular circumstance, dividing their force means easy picking for us. We were fortunate that they still underestimated us earlier. The next kill may be harder to come by though. I guess we will cross that bridge when we get there then. Vice replies, impressed that we got a score so early on. I chuckle, anticipating the upcoming mess the remaining Astartes will walk into, now that they know better than to split up. Chapter 29, Double Kill. Crud. Comes the scoff of a Lucifer Black before pulling a piece of smooth alloy and tossing it at a Cosgrin sitting opposite him. Plucking the surprisingly heavy piece of alloy out of the air, the Cosgrin smirks. Pleasure doing business with you, Blackie. The Cosgrin then throws the piece of alloy in the air a couple of times. Huh, this is a bit heavier than 100 thrones. The Lucifer Black rolls his eyes before redirecting them back to the picked viewer hanging from the cantina's metallic wall. Consider the surplus a bonus after your fellow Cadians impressed me with their initial engagement. Smirking proudly as if the Kasrikan himself was the one that fired the shot that took out a Salamander Astartes, the Kasrikan says. Then I'll be sure to get something good my wife in your honor. You do that. The Lucifer Black mumbles while downing a refreshment, bought from the overworked logistic cooks in the cantina. Currently, members of the JTF that are off-duty are crowding in cantinas and venues that have picked viewers. All of whom are eager to see how the spar between transhumans and humans will unfold. Bets are not an uncommon sight, with even the salamanders themselves participating in it as harmless fun. Of course, none of the bets are exorbitant in nature, it's why the JTF officers let them slide, opting to remind them to walk out of the bets while respecting the outcome, whatever it may be. Such loose management may be a travesty anywhere else, but this is the JTF, consisting of all the battle-hardened veterans in this corner of the galaxy. Fun is to be had whenever possible for the men and women who have denied death in the face. Given their unique composition and nature, inflexible rules will only hamper the JTF's internal cohesion. Nonetheless, even with all the excitement generated by the matchup, none of the spectators dared to indulge in it. The words from their officers linger, they are to learn from the opportunity and use the example to improve upon themselves. On the very next day, it can very well be them that participate in a spar against someone, after all. As such, none of them want to miss a single thing. Having witnessed their subordinates' professionalism, the officers of the JTF are pleased. On the screen, when the remaining salamanders of Karak's squad link up with Valmer who has managed to secure a counter-kill on the Cadian that ziplined away from them, the Kasrikan comments. I'll admit, that trap worked out way better than I expected it to be. The Lucifer Black nods in acknowledgement. A Melta charge as a high-quality feint, and a Cadian observer, acting as an expendable lure. These two, when combined with the urban setting, played into the psychology of the salamanders, who favor close-quarter battles. The salamanders willingly walked themselves into a multi-layered trap, and they paid first blood out of that. That ruse was one of the oldest tricks in the book, known by all, but everyone is still susceptible to face-planting themselves because of it. I am, however, surprised by how well the makeshift mines performed. They worked as well as small, dedicated anti-vehicle mines despite being crafted from scraps. Getting through the armored boot of an Astartes is not as easy as one may expect. The Kasrikan shrugs, knowing that there isn't much to explain as both of them, as part of the Tempestus science, know the effectiveness of an idewell. But not impossible, an underground penetrator, depending on the material of its making, can still pop the toe of an Astartes, as we have seen being simulated. Now that I think about it, those EFP's 3rd platoon made are basically big toe poppers. Gnarly stuff, all of them. That said, luck also played a big role in this. There's no guarantee the salamander would step directly on a mine, after all. The Lucifer Black nods. Luck always plays a big role, even for us, much less them. Truer words have never been spoken. The Kasrikan offers a toast to the Black. It's quite unfortunate that 1/3 platoon guy couldn't run away in time. No one can outrun an Astartes, especially one going on a hell path after being thrown out of a roof and his friend got mucked. The Lucifer Black comments. At least there are still 23 members of 3rd platoon left while there are only 5 salamanders. That ain't a fair fight at all, man. Both the Kasrikan and the Lucifer Black chuckle. Together, They watch as the salamanders dive into the urban alleyways, dodging a mortar barrage that falls on where they once were. Smart. The Cosgrin says. The mortar crews got the trap area already ranged. The effectiveness is limited, if there's any at all. Astartes can just outrun the shells before they can even land. The black adds. Yeah, but the mortar got them to be displaced. Knowing that they can't walk in the open, however, the salamanders will have to stay in the shadows. Nonetheless, they know where the mortars are coming from now, so they at least have a direction to go. The Kasrikin states while looking at the salamanders on the screen, noticing how they all break out into a sprint. This will be bad for them though. The black comments, having an inkling as to what's going on when he references 3rd Platoon's prior preparation. Oh no. The Kasrikin smirks before downing his drink. This will be fucking annoying. Without further comments, the duo and the rest of the cantina watch as the salamanders come across a suspicious object. While the spectators outside are given a clear, highlighted breakdown of what the object is, the salamander Astartes don't have such luxury. All the Astartes can see is a crisscrossing set of tripwires, going from the ground up to the height of the average Astartes. There is no visible explosive, but having learned their lesson from earlier, the salamanders choose to err on the side of caution. They could try to defuse the trap, but the thing is, that's just a bunch of wires, it's not even connected to anything but an empty plastic bottle. The Lucifer Black smiles wryly. The Kasrikin laughs directly. Emperor above, that is such a devious, if annoying thing to come across for any Astartes. Even if the whole thing was actually mined, they couldn't even defuse it properly with their big fingers. Cation explosives aren't exactly made to be Astartes compatible, much less one made from scrap. Then there's the fact that they are psychologically affected, not to a large extent, of course, but they are now overtly cautious. Karak Squad goes straight to search for an alternative path instead of checking whether the trap is actually real or not. That is honestly such a rookie mistake. The Lucifer Black is quite baffled. Can you blame them? I highly doubt an Astartes, even one from the Salamanders first, have encountered an opponent that invested so heavily in such mundane traps and tricks. Orcs don't ambush, at least not truly, while most cultists do so by screaming bloody murder. Not even the Drukhari or Ta employ these low-tech techniques. Quite frankly, only a rare breed of sane humans can come up with this clever subterfuge. The Black raises a corner of his lips upward. You're talking about Eucadians? Or the Katachan jungle fighters? The Cosgrin replies. I saw some of those chaps work their crafts before. And 3rd Platoon? They pulled out the whole shebang from the Katachan playbook, devious trappings, psychological manipulation, misdirection. They used everything in the grace period before the spar commenced. Quite frankly, the best thing the salamanders can do is to throw caution out of the window and charge through. They will take losses, but they will also ruin the meticulous plan 3rd Platoon has. I am starting to have a newfound sense of respect for the members of 3rd Platoon. That unit is a collection of uniquely adept individuals. The Lucifer Black admits, remembering how the entire Cadian platoon worked together to set up a crude but effective welcoming committee for the Astartes. The two scions then fall into a contemplative silence once more as Karak Squad finally finds a breakthrough in the labyrinth of alleyways and dark corners, one that is still mined with explosives, but easily bypassed by dashing and using a ledge as a platform to jump before kicking a wall to boost them over the set of traps. It's an impressive feat of acrobatics, to be sure, especially when the Astartes are big and heavy in their power armor. As the 5 salamanders of Karak Squad advance deeper into the bowel of the city, they come across suspicious activity. Slowing down from their methodical sprint, the salamanders use their enhanced hearings to detect the noise of vehicle engines running. Nodding to one another, the Astartes of Karak Squad advance in the shadow provided by the flanking buildings. Closer and closer to the source of the commotion, the Astartes determine that the sounds come from a set of vehicle treads and are very close. In fact, they are only separated by a building block. This may very well be the mortar unit that fired on Karak Squad relocating elsewhere. Unwilling to let the supposed Cadians speed their way out of here on a presumably commandeered or salvaged vehicle, the Astartes act decisively and charge. 3 of them dash out in the open while the remaining 2 run straight through the alley walls like tanks. The distance is short, so the time of exposure to the Cadian snipers is very brief. By the time the snipers on the dilapidated tower react, the salamanders are already on top of the suspicious site of activity. It is, in fact, a large warehouse with a large cargo bay for vehicles to come and go. The warehouse itself seems tall and sturdy enough, it's no wonder while at the same time overlooking a sizable portion of a 3-way intersection that also leads to the base of a Cadian-controlled tower. It makes sense that 3rd Platoon decided to use it as a firebase, rather than putting all of their eggs in one basket. The salamanders, the 2 that run through buildings to get to higher ground, notice the 2 metal tubes that poke partially over the top of the collapsed ferrocrete roof of the warehouse. This detail, when combined with the audible vehicle rumbling sounds and the heat signatures that are detected through the gaps of the rundown infrastructure, seems to reinforce the notion that 3rd Platoon has split its force. Without wasting their time, the 2 Astartes on the higher floor of a flanking building open fire on the heat signatures. Their intention is to cover the advance of their brothers, unnecessary as it may be. Under the suppressive fire provided by the 2 up on high, the rest of Karak's squad runs straight through the flimsy walls of the warehouse, just before a burst of visible laser beams hits where they were a few steps ago. The snipers of 3rd Platoon's interception fire do seem to lend credence to the fact that the warehouse is garrisoned by a contingent of their force. However, when Turok and 2 other salamanders storm in, the only thing they see moving is a Centaur armored utility vehicle constantly spinning in a circle in the middle of the warehouse. Not a single soul can be seen in the driver's seat of the Cadian workhorse. Looking to the side and upward in alarm, the 3 salamanders see the true nature of the supposed garrison of the warehouse. They are nothing but dummies, tinfoil wrapped around a bunch of sticks and miniature stoves that when combined together, form vaguely humanoid shapes that fool the Astartes' helmet sensors. These dummies were positioned in a way that masks their true nature from a cursory visual scan. Earlier, Karak's squad made a hasty decision to charge in, sparing them but a minimal time frame to perform a visual inspection. As such, they relied on their helmet sensors to identify potential threats and fired upon the heat signatures belonging to the supposed Cadian garrison. When in truth, not a living soul was inside. In other words, the Astartes were bamboozled, and they only just realized it. Through the picked viewer, the spectators see Turok turn on his heels and urge his brothers to get out of the warehouse. His action is swift, decisive even, and prompted by the veteran's instinct that the warehouse is another major setup. Quite unfortunately, it's a setup that Turok has willingly led his brothers in. This quick decision ultimately spares the 3 Astartes inside the warehouse the fate of being blown sky high, however, as the whole building explodes. The salamander Astartes jump out of the warehouse through the way they came from. It's an inelegant jump and landing, however, as even their bulks are thrown away by the shockwave of a gigantic fertilizer bomb going up in flame. One of them is even thrown away and slams into a street-side dumpster, knocking its nasty content all over himself and the floor. Thankfully for Karak's squad, Turok's swift warning spared them another round of elimination. That said, their tribulation is not yet over, as other than the 2 salamanders providing overwatch, Turok, and the remaining 2 Astartes are out in the open once more. So, understandably, the salamanders react how they should. The 2 overwatch turns and unleash a hail of bolt rounds in the direction of the tower, trying to cover their displaced brothers. Turok and the rest use the covering fire to swiftly regain their bearing. These actions occur in less than 10 seconds, yet, it's a good enough window of opportunity for one particular Cadian of 3rd Platoon. On one of the upper floors of the tower, Aizen lies in a prone position behind a murky but largely intact glass panel. She stays in the shadow offered by the clutters in the room, barely visible if one doesn't know where to look for her, while the long distance and the glass panel in front of the Cadian corporal render the salamander sensors ineffective. In the seconds it takes for the salamanders to suppress the more visible Weiss and Johnson's unit on the lower floors, Aizen already has a target chosen and her scope aligned. Then, she squeezes the trigger with a calm, deliberate slowness that seems disharmonic with the thumping of bolt rounds hitting the tower she's in and the barks of orders and shouts of her platoon mates. A soft click, a hum in the air, an invisible beam boring through the brownish glass panel. When Turok stands up with a hand pushing back on the ground while another is clutching his slightly battered bolter, he is swiftly stunned, his helmet-covered head knocked backward. In the seconds it takes for 2 of his battle brothers to run into cover, Turok's body falls back onto the pavement with a resounding clang. As if shocked by the sudden elimination of their squad leader, the 2 salamanders that are firing at the tower stop, with all of Karak's squad turning to look at Turok's body. From the time the warehouse exploded until Turok's elimination, everything occurred in less than 10 seconds. Yet, Aizen only needed 1 second to identify a target of opportunity through the thickening smoke plume generated by the warehouse's explosion. Less than 1 second is needed for Aizen's laser beam to burn through a glass panel, crossing hundreds of meters, and hitting the left eye socket of an Astartes' helmet. The helmet, fortunately or unfortunately depending on who you are rooting for, belongs to none other than Turok, the leader of Karak's squad. It's a wonderful kill, a major win even, for 3rd Platoon. Nonetheless, Aizen takes no joy in achieving the kill, opting to swiftly vacate her position once more in fear of retaliation fire. Her feat is not unfounded, as numerous bolt rounds impacted where she once was and destroyed many broken furniture and office desks. From the intensity of the barrage alone, it would seem the 4 surviving salamanders are incensed. Simulated as the battle arena may be, seeing their brother and leader knocked out unceremoniously like that is not something one would take kindly to. It doesn't change the fact that Aizen is already long gone by the time the salamanders retaliate, nor does it stop a synthesized voice from announcing, "Double kill." Churaka the Salamander, eliminated. Is it just the spectators, or does that shot come surprisingly too easy? Yet, when people review that sniper shot once more, none can find fault in the intricate setups or the corporal who took the shot. Everything is meticulously planned, one building block carefully placed upon another to create a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And the shooter, Aizen, grasped and executed it so perfectly that left even the Lucifer Blacks marvel at the efficiency. Those who are in the known, primarily coming from the Cadian 8th, all sport understanding expression, however. If Aizen can snipe a distance target using an old cantrill without a scope, then Emperor bless whoever is on the other end of an Aizen equipped with a long loss. It's as if the Emperor herself guides every one of Aizen's shots. The corporal's unerring precision is no less potent than her mind when put to work. Later on, when asked to comment about Aizen's knockout shot, Churaka has this to say. Finally, a worthy opponent. I accept my defeat with grace. If the opportunity arises, I will invite her to a contest of firearm finesses. Our battle will be legendary. It has to be noted that Churaka is a holder of Marksman's Honor, an award attributed to those who have shown remarkable accuracy with ranged weapons or consistently perform far above average in targeting foes. Churaka's comment and proposed contest will then go on to be a part of a series of accolades, dedicated to Aizen, but that will be a story for another day.